Welcome to Night Science Tales tonight. We begin a calm journey into the silent beauty of ancient pottery, moving gently through the ages where clay held whispers of human hands and forgotten fires. We won't be counting facts or holding a heavy lesson. Instead, these are soft, sleepy stories about the curves and colors of vessels made long ago. We will share little secrets carried by these earthen treasures, the minerals that gave them life, the symbolism etched into their sides, and the quiet journeys they took through history. Allow yourself to relax now, breathe deeply, and drift with the gentle wonders of these handcrafted histories. If you enjoy drifting off to these gentle stories, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to Night Science Tales so you don't miss our future journeys into the comforting corners of the cosmos and beyond. Point 1. The subtle imperfections in the clay reveal the gentle pressure of ancient fingers as the vessel slowly took its final shape. The trace of dermal ridges, those quiet lines of human biology, remain etched upon the surface long after the skin has moved away. This contact point between the transient body and the enduring earth material speaks a language of pure stillness, a memory of soft physical effort translated into geologic permanence. As you run a quiet fingertip over the fired surface now, you are feeling the gentle pressure applied millennia ago, a direct and intimate conversation across vast spans of sleeping time. The water content within the soft clay yielded easily, recording the exact moment of shaping, documenting the slight unevenness of the human touch. This quiet pressure created tiny molecular shifts, rearranging the silica and aluminum particles just enough to capture the unique topography of that maker's hand. It is a biological signature, soft and deep, preserved through the violent stillness of the kiln's heat, remaining long after the breath of the potter drifted away. Even the smallest variations in pressure, perhaps a tired sigh or a momentary slowing of effort, are held here, a silent record of muscular fatigue and focused intent. The clay keeps this biological secret carefully, revealing the soft topography of the skin in fine detail, whispering of the rhythmic motion of the heart that pumped life through those long-ago fingertips, shaping form from formlessness under the quiet guidance of an ancient, steady hand. Point 2. Many early pots feel remarkably cool to the touch, carrying the quiet, deep chill of the earth from which they were first excavated. This sensation is a simple, direct transaction of thermal energy, where the warmth of your own living hand flows gently into the cooler mass of the ancient ceramic. The earth itself acts as a massive thermal reservoir, a steady, deep space where temperature fluctuations are muted and slow, unlike the surface world of changing sun and cooling wind. For centuries, these objects rested below the frost line, immersed in the constant, quiet embrace of the subterranean environment, achieving a perfect, cool equilibrium with the geological matrix around them. When they are finally brought forth into the restless air, they retain the memory of that cool dwelling, sharing that deep stillness with anyone who touches them. The dense material of the fired clay conducts heat slowly but surely, absorbing the warmth, leaving the impression of deep, steady coldness on the skin. It is a quiet reminder that all things tend toward balance, a physical demonstration of the universal flow of energy-seeking equilibrium. The coolness is not simply a lack of heat, but an active, preserved state of quiet thermal stability, pulled from the darkness where the sun's influence is only a distant, muffled echo. Touching the pot is like touching a small, condensed sphere of subterranean quietude, a moment of profound, simple temperature exchange that connects the fleeting moment of touch to the vast, cold stillness of planetary depth. Point 3. A slow, rhythmic turning of the potter's wheel guided the flowing material, creating a tranquil spiral motion frozen in time forever. The steady rotation of the wheel imposes a perfect geometry upon the yielding earth, transforming mere mud into a harmonious form defined by centered equilibrium. This slow, predictable motion is deeply soothing, mirroring the grand, unhurried cycles of the cosmos, the steady orbit of the moon, the turning of the galaxy, the quiet, repetitive spinning of our planet on its axis. As the soft clay was centered, responding to the consistent rotational force, every particle flowed outward and upward in obedience to the principles of centrifugal force and gentle gravitational pull. The resulting curves are not random, but mathematical expressions of inertia and momentum, captured by the slow, guiding pressure of the fingers. The stillness we see now in the fired vessel is the quiet cessation of that ancient spin, the moment where movement was locked into molecular structure, permanently capturing the tranquil vortex of the wheel. Listening closely, one might almost hear the faint, steady whir of the axle, a sound now internalized within the ceramic structure itself. It is a memory of centeredness, a physical manifestation of a moment of pure, focused quietude. The spiral motion is a powerful natural metaphor, found in shells and galaxies alike, and here it is simplified and made tangible by the human desire for containment and symmetry. A timeless circle perfected under the influence of slow, steady, rhythmic turning. Point 4. The simple, curved forms of Neolithic jars often mimic the gentle silhouette of resting stones found along quiet riverbeds. This quiet affinity between crafted object and natural form reflects a deep, inherent human recognition of nature's perfection, achieved through the slow, relentless process of geological time. The river acts as the most patient of sculptors, smoothing every sharp edge, rounding every angle through the persistent friction of water flow and rolling sediment. These river stones, having reached a state of minimal friction and optimized flow, offer a blueprint for stability and peaceful form. Early potters instinctively replicated these stable, comforting shapes, understanding that vessels meant to hold and contain must possess the same quiet equilibrium as objects settled by eons of flow. The gentle swell of a jar's belly mirrors the weight and settled position of a river-washed boulder, suggesting durability and permanence. The quiet, perfect curve is a form that resists the abruptness of tension, a shape that flows easily into its surroundings. This mimicry is a form of deep geological empathy, where the potter seeks to harness the quiet wisdom embedded in the landscape. The vessel becomes a domesticated stone, brought up from the water's edge and given a purpose, yet retaining the smooth, unhurried elegance achieved only through the long, slow work of nature's quiet polishing. A settled form perfectly suited for a world that moves in slow, steady cycles. Point 5. Fine silt and mineral dust incorporated into the clay body give each piece a unique, soft texture that whispers of its original source. This texture is a geological tapestry, a quiet composition of particles that traveled vast distances over immense stretches of time, settling together in the beds of ancient lakes or valleys. Each grain of silt is a fragment of history, perhaps once part of a towering mountain range, slowly eroded by wind and rain, carried gently downward by the flow of water, finally coming to rest in the sedimentary layers that would eventually become the potter's resource. The feel of the ceramic surface is thus the combined touch of countless microscopic geological events. When you touch the subtle graininess, you are feeling the mineral remnants of feldspar, quartz, and mica, tiny fragments of the Earth's core chemistry. The soft texture is the result of varying particle sizes, allowing light to diffuse and creating a matte, comforting surface that seems to absorb sound and movement. The dust whispers of its journey, of the specific mineral composition of its birthplace, linking the quiet vessel directly to a unique geographical fingerprint. This material reality ensures that no two pieces hold exactly the same texture, for the composition of the Earth is infinitely complex and subtly varied. A constant, gentle mixing of minerals guided by the slow processes of sedimentation and geological drift, yielding a surface that speaks softly of deep time and distant origin. Point 6. Firing transformed the pliable mud into enduring stone, a quiet, necessary violence preserved through millennia of sleeping history. The kiln became a temporary microsun, a concentrated source of heat that introduced profound, irreversible molecular change. Within the intense warmth, all the remaining water molecules were expelled, a slow, silent evaporation, leaving the clay structure dry and rigid. As the temperature climbed, the silica particles within the clay began a quiet process of vitrification, softening slightly and fusing together, locking the porous structure into a crystalline, stone-like permanence. This process, requiring both great energy and careful control, is the moment where geology takes over from biology, where the transient material becomes inert and enduring. The fire's embrace was the final act of creation, sealing the form and preserving the shape against the quiet erosions of time, water, and air. The vessel became a keeper of that heat memory, now cool, yet holding the molecular rearrangement wrought by the intense thermal energy. The quiet necessity of the heat ensured that the vessel could withstand the passage of ages, becoming a stable, fixed point in the flow of history. The ceramic now rests, having survived the transformative intensity of the fire, achieving a silent, enduring hardness that mirrors the resilience of the deep bedrock, forever holding the memory of its baptism by flame. 7. The earliest ceramic vessels were built by coiling long ropes of clay, layer upon gentle layer, an exercise in patient construction. This slow method of creation involves a rhythmic, meditative motion, rolling the soft clay into smooth cylinders, then carefully placing each coil atop the last, patiently working against the quiet pull of gravity. The circular layering creates a slow, steady vertical climb, mimicking the growth rings of an ancient tree or the quiet accretion of coral reef structures over centuries. Each new coil requires a gentle fusion, pressing the new material firmly into the layer below, knitting the structure together slowly, ensuring strength through repeated, deliberate action. There is a deep, soothing predictability in this process, a necessity of slow focus that allows the mind to quiet itself as the hands engage in repetitive, constructive effort. The vessel rises gradually, a spiral staircase of soft earth, its form guided by the inner knowledge of stability and shape. This coiling method emphasizes slowness and attention to detail, a quiet commitment to the structure's integrity. The weight of the upper layers settles gently onto the coils below, compressing the material and solidifying the walls. The visible rings, sometimes subtly preserved, are silent records of time passing within the creation process, markers of the pauses and breaths taken by the maker. This construction method is a testament to patient endurance, building permanence one gentle layer at a time, allowing the soft material to slowly defy the downward pull of the earth. 8. Unglazed terracotta absorbs the light softly, diffusing reflections into a warm, matte glow that seems to hold the ancient sunlight. When light falls upon the porous, unglazed surface, it does not bounce back sharply or cleanly. Instead, the microscopic roughness of the fired clay interrupts the photons, scattering them gently in all directions. This diffusion softens the quality of the illumination, eliminating harsh glare and creating a tranquil, even field of color. The terracotta seems to drink in the light, internalizing the illumination rather than reflecting it outward, resulting in a gentle, comforting radiance. This warm, muted appearance links the vessel visually to the quiet dust and deep earth tones of the landscape it emerged from. The surface texture acts like a multitude of tiny valleys and peaks, ensuring that the light is always broken and softened, fostering a sense of quiet depth. In the absence of a glassy coat, the vessel retains its connection to the earth's raw materials, possessing a humble visual presence that invites the touch. It holds the memory of ancient mornings and slow afternoons, bathing in the quiet energy of a sun that has set countless times since its making. The matte finish is a promise of stillness, a surface that does not call attention to itself through sharpness, but offers a quiet visual repose, absorbing the world's brilliance into a soft, steady, internalized glow. 9. The weight of a large amphora suggests the labor of carrying water or grain, now holding only the hushed weight of history itself. When empty, the vessel possesses a quiet, palpable gravity, a reminder of the dense material used in its construction. When it was full, however, this weight was magnified dramatically by the liquid or grain it contained, requiring significant human effort and muscular strength to move it from source to destination. This tangible weight speaks silently of the ancient rhythm of labor, the strain of the shoulder, the steady pace of the carrier, the necessary reliance on a robust form to transport essential sustenance across the landscape. Now, resting in stillness, the physical burden has evaporated, leaving only the quiet symbolic weight of its function. The absence of the stored contents is a hollow space, yet the vessel still seems heavy with memory, containing the invisible gravity of time and human necessity. It holds the ghosts of the measured flow of water, the dry rustle of grain, and the rhythmic footfalls of those who relied upon its stability. This gravity connects the modern observer back to the fundamental physics of ancient life, where effort and mass were inseparable constants. The amphora stands as a quiet monument to physical endurance, its structure designed to manage immense gravitational forces, now holding nothing but the quiet air and the immeasurable, gentle density of accumulated history. 10. Subtle shifts in color across the surface tell a silent tale of uneven heat distribution during the final, transformative firing process. The variations in hue, from deep reds and oranges to soft ochres and grays, are not random pigments, but chemical records of temperature gradients within the kiln's quiet heat. Different parts of the vessel, perhaps sitting slightly closer to a flame or shielded by another piece, experienced unique thermal environments. Where the temperature was highest and the oxygen flowed freely, the iron molecules within the clay oxidized fully, leading to the development of deep, rich reds and warm browns. In areas where the heat was lower, or where the oxygen was slightly starved, the iron compounds reacted differently, resulting in paler, sometimes softer, grayish tones. This thermal map is permanently etched into the ceramic matrix, providing a passive, quiet analysis of the firing event. It is a subtle record of the flow of energy, the invisible currents of heat and air that moved through the enclosed space. The surface is a silent diary of the fire's breath, documenting where the heat lingered and where it retreated. These gentle color transitions are not flaws, but essential identifiers, unique markers of the vessel's journey through transformation. They tell a story of physics and chemistry working in quiet concert, creating a permanent, aesthetic record of the necessary, uneven distribution of heat energy. 11. Geometric patterns painted on Mycenaean bowls repeat with a calm precision, suggesting a universal order sought by early artists. The slow hand that guided the brush centuries ago sought not chaos, but the deep, underlying stillness of mathematics. These repeating motifs, the spirals winding inward and outward, the zigzags marching steadily along the rim, reflect a profound comfort in predictable structure. It is the visual manifestation of a search for cosmic law, a quiet attempt to map the immense, ceaseless motions of the heavens onto the gentle curve of a clay vessel. Consider the mathematics of the natural world, how the spirals of a sunflower head precisely mirror the geometry found here, or how the slow, inevitable orbit of a distant moon maintains its path with absolute regularity. The ancient painter was echoing this fundamental rhythm, finding rest in the reliable recurrence of shape. Each repetition is a quiet affirmation that the universe, despite its apparent turbulence, holds an enduring, hidden pattern. The vessel becomes a small, still center of stability, its surface a testament to the soothing power of symmetry. The colors, usually earth tones, settle into their appointed places, defining space with clarity and softness. There is no frantic movement here, only the steady pulse of design, a slow, gentle ticking of time measured not by moments, but by the perfect return of a form. This visual cadence encourages the eye to move slowly, deliberately, absorbing the quiet assurance that some things, like the laws of physics or the nature of shape, remain constant and trustworthy across epochs. This quest for ordered beauty is a biological comfort, a deep need for the brain to recognize pattern amidst the vastness, allowing the mind to slow and drift into the peaceful certainty of geometric repetition. The silent, measured lines speak of a world where things inevitably resolve back into their designed places, just as the seasons return and the tides softly obey the lunar gravitational pull. 12. The deep black glaze on Athenian ware was achieved through precise oxygen control in the kiln, a chemical mastery now quieted by time. The process unfolded in a profound, slow silence within the heat of the closed kiln, a quiet dance between earth, fire, and air. This magnificent black, deeper and softer than any shadow, was not achieved through simple paint, but through a patient, chemical transformation of the clay itself. It began with iron oxide, naturally present in the fine clay slip, awaiting its moment of molecular change. As the kiln reached its apex temperature, the air vents were intentionally restricted, reducing the oxygen available inside, plunging the atmosphere into a state of reduction. This gentle suffocation forced the iron molecules to quiet down, transforming the red ferric oxide into the profound, stable black ferrous oxide. The temperature must be held perfectly steady, an act of silent, deep concentration, ensuring the transformation is complete and uniform across the surface. Then came the second, subtle step, allowing a measured, soft ingress of oxygen during the cooling phase. This partial reoxidation caused the main body of the pot to return to its natural red, but the fine slip, having sintered and fused into glass, held fast to its newfound, deep black composure. This contrast, born of chemistry and slow heat, allowed the eventual emergence of the famous red figures. The deep black surface thus represents a moment frozen in time, a perfect balance of scientific understanding and patient labor, where the very chemistry of the earth was harnessed and stilled into permanence. It is a quiet testament to a knowledge that rested entirely on observation, fire, and the understanding of the soft, invisible breath of the air, ensuring that the black, a color of quiet depth, remains eternally stable, a deep sleep for light itself. 13. Sometimes a single flowing brushstroke captures a stylized animal, forever frozen mid-stride across the vessel's curved shoulder. The moment of creation was swift, a quiet intake of breath, a liquid line sweeping across the curved surface, and then the stillness descends. This animal, often a deer or a stylized horse, is not truly running. It is suspended in perpetual inertia, held fast by the clay and the gentle heat of the firing process. The artist's hand moved with a confidence born of repetition, translating the complex motion of life into the soft, simple geometry of the stylized form. This single stroke embodies economy and grace, suggesting the animal's intent without demanding excessive detail. It is the essence of movement without the burden of ongoing effort. The line itself follows the subtle topography of the vessel, rising and falling slightly as it encounters the curve, like a silent thought tracing the surface of a sleeping mind. The creature is divorced from the need for sustenance or flight, existing solely as a graceful contour against the neutral backdrop. Imagine the softness of that moment, the liquid slip adhering instantly to the surface, cooling almost immediately into a fixed declaration of form. It offers a soothing sense of resolution, the drama of the hunt or the flight completely removed, leaving only the calm, inherent beauty of the creature's silhouette. The animal rests eternally mid-step, its energy preserved, offering a silent meditation on the physics of grace and the quiet finality of artistic capture. It asks the observer to pause, to recognize the perfect flow that begins and ends in a single, unbroken current, leading the eye gently around the vessel's continuous, soft horizon. 14. Red figures emerge from the dark background, seeming to glow softly, like silent stories told by firelight long ago in quiet rooms. The red figures are not painted onto the dark. Rather, they are the quiet, natural color of the clay, revealed by the meticulous removal of the black slip around them. This technique creates an illusion of soft luminescence, as if the figures possess an inner light struggling gently against the enveloping night. They are stories told through the soft physics of contrast, where the absence of darkness defines the presence of light. Imagine a quiet gathering in an ancient dwelling, the only illumination provided by a slowly flickering hearth. The edges of the figures would softly shift and breathe in this unsteady light, suggesting movement and depth without ever actually changing. They emerge from the abyss like silent constellations, appearing only after the overwhelming brightness of the day has receded. The deep black serves as a silent, endless space, allowing the warm earth red to hold the focus entirely. These figures do not shout. They whisper across the centuries, their narratives frozen in postures of soft dignity or quiet action. The gentle glow suggests warmth, the lingering heat of the firing process still trapped in the red earth molecules. They carry the weight of history not as a burden, but as a soft memory, asking only for a quiet gaze. This visual stillness, where the figures are permanently bathed in soft, conceptual light, allows the mind to drift into the narrative, accepting the scene as a gentle, unchanging tableau, offering comfort in its quiet, consistent illumination against the vast, encompassing silence of the background. 15. Simple bands of earth-tone slip decorate utilitarian pots, providing a visual anchor without disturbing the overall gentle form. These bands are the quiet necessities of decoration, the minimum required to define the structure without interrupting its fundamental purpose. They are lines of grounding, soft reminders of the vessel's connection to the earth from which it was born. Often comprised of browns, ochres, or quiet reds, these slips derive their color from the minerals of the local geology, tying the pot firmly to its physical origin. The bands do not strive for attention. They merely affirm the horizontal plane, gently stabilizing the roundness of the pot's profile. They serve as quiet tectonic markers, emphasizing the slow, continuous swell of the body and the steady narrowing of the neck. This minimalist approach is inherently soothing, rejecting visual noise in favor of soft, dependable regularity. The lines are drawn with a steady hand, encircling the pot with a comforting predictability, much like the slow, steady rings found within the trunk of an old tree. They represent the quiet architecture of function, where every addition is subservient to the object's primary role as a safe container. By using colors that merge harmoniously with the clay body, the decoration ensures visual peace, a soft continuum of earth and form. These bands are the slow pulse of structure, guiding the eye gently around the circumference, an unbroken circuit of soft color that encourages a sense of stability and calm, reminding us that sometimes the simplest lines are the strongest anchors. 16. Faint traces of original pigments, now mostly faded, hint at a former brightness that once illuminated ancient, busy marketplaces. The surfaces of these ancient objects hold the spectral remnants of color, ghost images of a lost vibrancy. Time, assisted by the slow, inevitable work of entropy, has gently lifted most of the surface pigments, leaving only the barest whisper of their former hue. Where once there might have been a striking blue derived from copper compounds, or a bright yellow from iron silicates, there is now only a slight discoloration, a soft shadow clinging to the protected crevices of the design. These faint traces are quiet markers of molecular degradation, the patient physics of sunlight and moisture, slowly dismantling the chemical bonds that held the colors in place. They offer a muted, humble glimpse into a past that was far louder and brighter than the silent, subdued fragments we now observe. Imagine these vessels, fresh from the workshop, their colors sharp and demanding attention, glinting under the Mediterranean sun in a noisy, bustling square. Now they reside in a state of quiet resignation, their brightness softened to a historical memory. The remaining pigment is a quiet act of defiance against total disappearance, a small, stubborn cluster of molecules refusing to entirely let go. This gentle fading allows for a peaceful contemplation. The drama of the original contrast is gone, replaced by the unified, soft patina of age. It is a slow settling into silence, confirming that even the most vibrant light eventually yields to the universal, gentle process of softening and stillness. 17. The stylized waves painted on Minoan jars evoke the quiet, constant rhythm of the sea that surrounded their island civilization. These gentle, rolling lines are not meant to depict a fierce storm, but rather the deep, predictable tranquility of the ocean's massive, slow pulse. The waves wrap around the vessel, suggesting an endless, cyclical motion, a visual lullaby drawn from the eternal gravitational dance between the moon and the vast water mass. The lines are often soft and sweeping, emphasizing the liquid nature of their inspiration, flowing seamlessly into one another without interruption or conflict. They represent the quiet, underlying constancy of the environment that sustained the Minoan world. Observing these forms encourages a deep awareness of rhythm, the slow, steady ingress and egress of the tide, the quiet current beneath the surface that moves without visible disturbance. The vessel itself becomes a symbolic island, forever surrounded by the stylized, soothing flow of the water. This depiction captures the essential physics of wave propagation, the transfer of energy across the surface, without the water molecules themselves moving forward substantially. A silent energy captured in stationary paint. The gentle repetition of the wave pattern mirrors the body's own quiet biological rhythms, the steady breathing and the measured heartbeat. The painted sea offers a timeless, comforting connection to the deep, silent energy of the ocean, the ultimate cradle of stillness and profound, slow movement. 18. Many decorations are not purely aesthetic, but served as silent protective symbols to guard the precious contents within the vessel. These symbols are quiet, visual reassurances, acting as gentle, invisible wards against harm or contamination. They are not elaborate warnings, but soft, intentional blessings placed upon the stored grain, oil, or wine. Research suggests that these subtle motifs, perhaps an eye, a gentle geometric knot, or a specific animal form, were intended to provide a psychological and spiritual seal. They manifest a quiet hope that the bounty held within the container would remain safe from unseen misfortune or corruption. The symbols rest subtly near the rim or the handle, strategic placements where potential danger might enter or where the vessel might be lifted. They are a form of applied, silent belief, intertwining utility with gentle spiritual care. This practice reflects a universal human need to impose order and safety upon the fragile structures of daily life. The symbols perform their protective duty without sound or movement, working on a level of quiet, internal intention. They are the silent guardians of scarcity, ensuring the continuity of life by preserving the stored provisions. Their presence adds a layer of serene complexity to the vessel, transforming a simple container into an object quietly imbued with care and watchful intent, allowing the user to rest, assured that the contents are safe in their silent, symbolized guardianship. 19. The serene curve of a handle often balances the entire composition, offering a soft invitation to lift and hold the ancient object. The handle is the silent handshake between the past creator and the present observer. Its curve is engineered not just for strength, but for the gentle, natural fit of the resting hand, a subtle physics of comfort. This line often acts as the final, resolving element of the composition, completing the geometric flow started by the body and the neck. It offers a point of entry, a quiet invitation to engage with the object's weight and volume. The handle provides the necessary leverage, designed to allow the user to easily overcome the force of gravity holding the liquid within. Its symmetry and smooth finish encourage the slow, deliberate action of lifting, preventing sharp movements. It is an ergonomic gesture preserved through millennia, a testament to the quiet intelligence of design. Holding the ancient object by its handle connects the user to the long chain of humanity that has performed the exact same gentle action. The drawing of water, the pouring of wine. The curve is a continuous, soft arc, free of sharp angles or tension, mirroring the quiet grace inherent in the act of balance. This serene, engineered line ensures that the vessel rests in perfect equilibrium, whether placed on a flat surface or cradled in the soft, receiving architecture of the human palm. 20. Occasionally, a potter's mark or signature rests subtly near the base, a quiet acknowledgement from the forgotten creator. This subtle mark is a small, silent whisper of identity, placed near the deepest foundation of the vessel, often obscured from immediate view. It is not a declaration of fame, but a quiet, humble confirmation of craft and origin. The mark is frequently a single, incised character or a simple geometric sign, pressed gently into the soft clay before firing. Its placement near the base suggests an acceptance of anonymity, recognizing that the function and beauty of the vessel must speak louder than the name of the artisan. This small signature rests silently, enduring through the ages, a connection to the specific hands that shaped the earth into this form. Long after the potter's memory has dissolved into historical time, this small sign remains, a quiet acknowledgement that effort and intention were poured into the creation. It speaks of the dignity of skilled labor, the satisfaction derived from knowing one's handiwork is enduring. The mark does not interrupt the smooth flow of the decoration or the form, but instead settles into the clay's shadow, a final, modest sign-off. It allows the creator to softly rest, knowing their trace persists quietly, linking their brief, active life to the long, deep sleep of the finished object. 21. Each shard, when gently pieced together, maps a fraction of a timeline stretching back beyond recorded, spoken memory. The very surface of the clay holds a silent chronology, a slow sedimentation of moments that accumulated before human consciousness learned the patterns of writing or the careful organization of seasonal calendars. We trace the hairline cracks and the microscopic shifts in color, understanding that each variation represents an enormous expanse of planetary motion and solar energy exchange. This timeline stretches beyond the scope of spoken words, reaching back into the epochs when the minerals themselves were formed, cooling slowly from subterranean heat, moving with the gradual, relentless pace of continental drift. When we feel the cool weight of a piece in our hand, we are feeling the physical persistence of a time that knew only the language of geology and the rhythm of erosion, long before the first quiet syllable was formed on a tongue. The complete vessel, when imagined, represents a structured memory, the silent organization of material that survived the vast entropy of passing centuries. It is a slow map detailing not battles or kings, but the steady, unchanging flow of time itself, captured in the stillness of fired earth. Just as distant starlight takes millions of years to reach our eyes, the memory embedded in the clay takes vast, slow consideration to be fully perceived, demanding a quiet patience that aligns our own brief lifespan with the slow breathing of the terrestrial sphere. The small fraction we hold is merely a single, crystalline moment extracted from the deep and continuous flow of cosmic history, whispering of cycles and silent change. This material silence is often louder than any recorded history, suggesting the profound depth of years where human existence was merely a whisper carried on an ancient breeze, a gentle pulse in the vastness of biological unfolding. The reconstruction is a quiet act of listening to the slow, steady hum of the deep past. 22. Found lying beneath layers of insulating soil, many pots rested in the deep, undisturbed silence of centuries passing slowly above them. The soil itself becomes a patient blanket, a thick layer of accumulated time and gentle decay, filtering the harsh light and muting the frantic noises of the world above. Here, beneath the surface, the air is still, and the temperature maintains a steady, predictable equilibrium, undisturbed by the quick, chaotic changes of weather or the momentary turbulence of life. Gravity works its slow magic, compacting the earth above the artifacts, adding infinitesimal layers of dust and organic matter, pressing down with a constant, pervasive force. In this deep stillness, the only movement is the slow migration of moisture through the sediment, carrying dissolved nutrients and trace elements down toward the clay, or the silent, invisible growth of deep, penetrating root structures seeking the water below. The vessels slumbered in a darkness undisturbed even by the cycles of the moon, cradled in an environment of near-perfect repose, experiencing time not as a hurried measure, but as a vast, continuous state of being. Above them, civilizations rose and fell like quiet waves on a distant shore. Seasons turned in their predictable, slow rotation, and the magnetic poles of the planet shifted with geological slowness. Yet within the earthen cradle, the silence remained, a powerful, insulating void that preserved the structure and memory of the ancient forms. This is the ultimate quiet preservation, a temporary halt in the long journey of entropy, where the physics of the earth conspires to hold objects still until the light of a future day gently reveals their presence once more. The pots are silent witnesses to the deep respiration of the planet, resting below the zone where rapid change occurs, connected instead to the slow, steady pulse of the core. 23. The creamy white calcification sometimes visible on the surface is a gentle echo of minerals absorbed from the surrounding burial environment. This subtle, pale coating is a record of silent chemical interaction, where water, moving slowly through the soil matrix, dissolved calcium carbonate and other mineral compounds, carrying them into intimate contact with the porous ceramic surface. The water then evaporated or moved onward, leaving behind its trace, a delicate crystalline layer that adheres softly to the clay body. This is a slow-motion deposition, a geological artwork built molecule by molecule over hundreds or thousands of years, revealing the specific mineral composition of the earth surrounding the resting place. We see the influence of ancient geological layers, perhaps limestone bedrock or ancient volcanic ash, now transcribed onto the vessel's surface through the quiet medium of water chemistry. It is similar to the formation of stalactites and stalagmites in deep, silent caves, where time is measured by the slow dripping and crystallization of dissolved stone. The calcification provides a physical bridge to the environment, showing how the object ceased to be purely artificial and became integrated into the natural cycle of dissolution and precipitation within the earth. This process speaks to the deep continuity of matter, the way elements move and recombine, maintaining a graceful, silent equilibrium. The white film is a soft, tangible representation of molecular migration, a whisper of deep earth processes reaching the surface of the artifact. It settles upon the original surface, creating a veil of time, a serene pale shroud that records the patient, invisible work of dissolution and binding, ensuring that the vessel carries the physical signature of its long slumber within the quiet depths of the earth. 24. Holding an ancient vessel is to bridge a silent gap of thousands of years, connected only by the persistent material of clay. The firing of the ceramic transforms the unstable mud into an enduring matrix, locking the elemental structure into a permanence that resists the quick decay of biological life. The material itself is a steady, unmoving anchor in the chaos of human time, offering a direct, tactile link to a distant moment of shaping and use. When our modern fingers gently trace the contours of the rim, we are overlapping our brief presence with the indelible memory of the hands that threw the clay, smoothed the surface, and used the vessel in the vanished routine of their daily existence. The silence of the gap is profound, filled only by the slow, constant movements of the solar system and the quiet turning of the seasons. Yet the persistent material allows this distance to collapse into a single touch. The atoms that compose the clay are the same atoms that absorbed ancient sunlight and recorded the friction of long-ago tasks, making the object a timeless conduit. This connection bypasses language, history, and narrative, resting purely in the realm of elemental physics and structural integrity. The vessel is a physical manifestation of continuity, a quiet proof that some structures are designed to transcend the fleeting nature of breath and thought. The experience is one of profound slowness, where the vast duration of human history is reduced to the immediate, comforting weight of the cool, persistent earth in one's palm. The clay speaks without sound, simply presenting its enduring reality, refusing to submit to the rapid deterioration that characterizes organic existence. It is a moment of deep, silent recognition between two widely separated points on the human timeline, tethered together by the simple, enduring nature of fused mineral matter. 25. Tiny, barely visible scratches suggest the mundane, quiet tasks of daily life, the dipping, pouring, and setting down of the vessel. These minute abrasions, often detectable only under raking light, are not scars of sudden violence but records of gentle, repetitive interaction, the cumulative friction of necessary routines. Each scratch marks a small surrender of the clay material to the steady passage of the world around it. The fine grains of sand stirred into a liquid and poured out, the soft scraping against an uneven earthen floor, the subtle pressure applied by the grasp of a hand. They whisper of countless small domestic moments, the silent rhythms that govern sustenance and survival, repeated daily until they became unconscious acts, like the slow, steady orbiting of a moon around a planet. The patterns of wear are a silent ledger of labor, tracking the consistency of actions performed without thought, focusing on the simple, vital purpose of holding and conveying. Observing these patterns allows us to zoom in on the micro-level physics of human existence, recognizing that even the slightest, most trivial contact leaves a permanent, though subtle, imprint on matter. The collective weight of these minute touches speaks of patience, of the long duration of a peaceful life lived within predictable constraints. The scratches show where the vessel was most vulnerable, where liquid flowed, where it was anchored to the ground, a geographical map of interaction. This gentle erosion is a form of continuous, quiet dialogue between the material object and the needs of its users, a soothing visualization of cyclical necessity and the slow accumulation of soft, shared history over time. 26. The unique aroma of dry earth often still clings faintly to museum pieces, carrying the scent of the slumbering tomb or dwelling. This residual fragrance is composed of volatile organic compounds and geosmin, the specific molecule responsible for the familiar, comforting smell of freshly turned soil or wet clay. It is an olfactory archive, a gentle, airborne memory that travels across time and distance on the currents of air. When we perceive this faint, dry scent, we are connecting instantly and deeply to the physical environment where the artifact rested for millennia, absorbing the quiet, cool essence of the subterranean silence. The molecules themselves have adhered subtly to the porous ceramic structure, resisting the long process of dissipation, only to be released now by the gentle warmth of ambient air or the proximity of a human presence. This aroma speaks of mineral structure, of the slow decay of roots and leaves that surrounded the object, and of the steady, cold equilibrium of the Earth's insulating blanket. It is a trace of the dark, silent world of the burial context, a profound sensory connection that bypasses the visual and historical narrative, reaching directly into the primal experience of the ground. The scent is often dry, cool, and mineralic, carrying the ghost of dampness and the memory of profound stillness. It reminds us that every object exists in a constant chemical exchange with its environment, absorbing and releasing the molecular structure of its surroundings. The museum air, usually pristine and controlled, holds this faint, unexpected whisper of the ancient, slumbering earth, a soft reminder of deep time carried lightly on the breath. 27. When gently washed, the original patterns often reappear, emerging from the dust like forgotten dreams recalled in the morning. The conservation process is one of patient, slow revelation, where specialized soft brushes and purified water act as agents of time reversal. The water molecules slowly dissolve the accumulated layers of soluble salts, dust, and minute mineral deposits that have formed a silent, opaque shroud over the decorated surface. As the dust lifts away, often in swirling sediment clouds, the crisp lines, deep pigments, and geometric precision of the original artisan begin to assert themselves once more. This emergence is profoundly quiet and steady, akin to watching the morning fog slowly relinquish its grip on a sleeping valley, revealing the clear, defined landscape beneath. The designs that were muted by the haze of centuries suddenly regain their vibrancy and intentionality, proving that their essence was never truly lost, merely obscured by the steady, cumulative fall of time. It is a visual metaphor for memory retrieval, where the necessary details return only when the mind is allowed to settle and the obscuring noise is filtered away. The patterns lie dormant, waiting for the gentle chemical and physical intervention to bring them back into the realm of sight. The returning colors seem deep and saturated, having been protected from the destructive energy of light for so long, and they speak of the careful hands that applied them with purpose and ceremony before the long, dark sleep began. This act of washing is a quiet celebration of persistence, acknowledging that the underlying artistic intent remains perfectly intact, sleeping quietly beneath the veil of temporary accumulation. 28. Some pots were deliberately broken in ritual, ensuring their silent service continued in the realm of ancestral spirits. This act of intentional fracture is not an ending but a transformation, a physical means of releasing the vessel's essence from the material constraints of this world, allowing its purpose to migrate to a spiritual plane. The breakage, often performed with a quick, single strike, creates new boundaries, the sharp edges of the fragments acting as quiet portals through which the object's utility passes into the non-material realm. The pot's function, to hold, to contain, to serve, is transferred to the invisible sphere, continuing its service to those who have also crossed the threshold. This ritual action speaks deeply to the understanding of matter and spirit, suggesting that the integrity of the object is less important than the enduring continuity of its function. The scattered pieces remaining in the earthly domain are tangible markers of this transition, quiet evidence of the moment when matter gave way to intention. They lie in the ground, each fragment holding a piece of the object's history, silently testifying to the belief that the material world is but a temporary phase. The broken vessel thus achieves a higher, more enduring form of existence, its physical chaos translating into spiritual order. The fragments are at rest, having fulfilled their ultimate purpose by facilitating a metaphysical journey, existing now as a quiet reminder of the boundary between the seen and the unseen worlds, forever bound to their sacred purpose beyond the tangible reach of human hands. 29. Fragments found scattered wide often fit together perfectly, offering a comforting sense of order recovered from chaos and time. This phenomenon speaks to the deep structural integrity of the original object, a profound physical memory embedded in the clay itself. When two distant pieces, perhaps separated by many meters of soil and millennia of tectonic shift, suddenly align with a soft click, it is a moment of satisfying, gentle resolution. The fit is precise, undeniable, proving that even the violent forces of fracture and subsequent entropy cannot entirely erase the fundamental geometry and unity of the original creation. It is a microcosm of universal order, mirroring the way disparate stellar bodies are held in predictable, interlocking gravitational harmony, or how complex crystalline structures emerge from chaotic mineral solutions. The assembly process is slow and meticulous, a quiet meditation on form and physics, where the mind seeks the inevitable connection between lines and curves, anticipating the soothing return to wholeness. Each piece is a necessary variable in a large, quiet equation, and the resulting reconstruction is a proof of persistence, a visual affirmation that the initial design holds its power across the immense distance of time and circumstance. The silence surrounding the fragments ends momentarily with the soft sound of their union, a subtle sign of order being restored from the disorder that defines the passage of years. This gentle interlocking is a quiet victory over decay, a reminder that the bonds of material integrity can withstand the slow disintegration of time, allowing form to reassert itself peacefully and completely. 30. The soft, rounded lip of a jug shows consistent wear, suggesting the countless gentle touches it received while pouring liquids. This subtle erosion is the result of persistent, low-grade friction, the soft skin of fingers pressing against the edge, the repeated flow of water or oil over the rim, and the slight, unavoidable contact with other surfaces during storage. The material has slowly, patiently surrendered its sharp edges, achieving a state of smooth, comforting equilibrium. The curvature of the lip now mirrors the natural curve of the human palm and the arc of the liquid stream, demonstrating an intimate physical adaptation to human use over time. This softness is a record of daily intimacy, a silent history of sustenance and care, showing where the material met the living world most frequently and gently. Unlike a sharp fracture, this wear is gradual, continuous, and entirely peaceful, indicating a long and useful life marked by routine interaction. It is similar to how a river stone achieves its perfect smoothness through the constant, gentle abrasion of flowing water over geological periods, a testament to the power of continuous, soft action. When we run a thumb along this rounded edge, we feel the collective shadow of every pore and every gentle lift performed by hands long turned to dust, a quiet confirmation of shared human necessity across millennia. The smooth lip is a palpable connection to the simple, life-giving tasks of the past, a surface refined not by deliberate artistry, but by the slow, continuous kindness of repetitive, gentle use. 31. Tapping the side of a well-fired pot produces a dull, quiet ring, a low note resonating from deep within the millennia. The sound itself is a gentle vibration moving through the dense, crystalline structure of the clay, a momentary disturbance that quickly settles back into the vast silence of the room. This low resonance speaks of the physics of structure, how the molecular bonds, strengthened by the intense heat of the firing kiln, hold a memory of their transformation. When the soft pad of a finger makes contact, it imparts a tiny amount of kinetic energy. That energy does not dissipate immediately, but travels along the curved surfaces, a faint wave moving across the ceramic body, like a slow ripple spreading across a still, black pond just before dawn. It is a deep, foundational tone, unlike the sharp, high pitch of a cracked or unfired piece, suggesting a fundamental stability that has endured the passage of countless seasons and the slow rotation of the earth beneath the silent stars. The pitch is determined by the thickness of the walls, the careful geometry, and the density achieved when the clay minerals fused into their permanent, quiet state. Listen closely, and you hear not just the momentary ring, but the silence that follows, a profound stillness that absorbs the last whisper of the sound wave, pulling all disturbance back into the peaceful, heavy core of the ancient earth from which the clay was first drawn. This sound is a lullaby of time, short-lived but perfectly steady, confirming that the structure remains whole, patient, and deeply rooted in its enduring form. The vibration fades slowly, melting into the background hum of the sleeping world, leaving only the quiet memory of its passing. 32. Storage jars were designed with broad, stable bases, ensuring they rested securely and patiently through long seasons of harvest. This foundational stability is an understanding of gravity itself, a gentle acknowledgement of the Earth's constant downward pull. The wide base distributes the mass of the jar and its contents across a broad, flattened plane, lowering the center of gravity closer to the ground, thus ensuring maximum resistance against the slight disturbances of the sleeping household or the subtle tremors of the distant Earth. Imagine the long wait through the winter, the quiet contents of grain or oil held steadily within the clay walls. The base provides a perfect anchor, a silent promise that the provisions will remain undisturbed until the cyclical moment of need returns, when the sun completes its long annual journey and the harvest cycle begins anew. This design reflects a deep human connection to natural rhythms, the need for patience and certainty in preparation for the long, inevitable flow of agricultural time. The mathematics of the curve dictate that the jar cannot be easily toppled. The expansive footprint acts like the slow, steady root system of an ancient, enduring tree, holding its position against the gentle pressures of passing time. It sits, heavy and still, a geometric sentinel overseeing the quiet process of preservation, reminding us that true endurance often lies in having a wide, solid connection to the supportive earth beneath us. 33. The interior surfaces are often smooth from gentle use, worn silently by the soft swish of oil, wine, or water contained within. This smoothness is not sudden. It is the slow, cumulative result of tiny, repetitive molecular interactions over generations. Each time a liquid is poured in or out, its molecules, moving in gentle currents, perform an almost imperceptible polishing action against the microscopic roughness of the fired clay. The subtle friction of the flowing fluid, perhaps wine moving slowly under the constant influence of gravity, works silently to erode the tiny peaks and fill the miniature valleys of the ceramic surface. It is a slow, steady entropy, leading not to destruction, but to refinement, creating a silky patina that feels cool and passive to the touch. The continuous respiration of the contents, the subtle shifts in volume due to temperature changes, the slow, silent absorption and release of moisture through the porous clay, contribute to this enduring softness. This interior texture stands in quiet contrast to the rougher, sometimes scored exterior, bearing witness only to the gentle, unhurried flow of valuable, life-giving liquids. It is a surface worn by abundance and steady use, reflecting a history of containment where the boundary between the vessel and the liquid was constantly being smoothed and unified by the repetitive, calming motion of flowing substance. 34. Pottery figures, like silent companions, often guarded the resting places of the deceased, watching over their long, deep sleep. These figures stand as quiet witnesses to the continuity of existence, their clay bodies enduring the silent, slow passage of geological time above the ground, while the human body settles into its final, deepest rest below. They are not active protectors in the way of sharp weapons or moving guards, but rather static symbols of eternal stillness and unwavering presence. Their eyes, often painted or etched onto the ceramic, gaze out into the timeless void, observing the slow drift of clouds and the quiet procession of the nocturnal sky. They embody the steady constancy that transcends the fleeting moment of human life. The clay itself, hardened earth, offers a gentle, material connection between the resting body and the planet that sustains all life and welcomes all decay. They watch over the biological process of transformation, where bone and tissue slowly yield back to the molecular elements of the soil. Their silence is profound, a deep echo of the quietude of the grave itself, offering comfort through their simple, unwavering geometry and their persistent vigil, a gentle assurance that even in the deepest sleep, the cycle of the material world continues, steady and peaceful around the perimeter of rest. 35. Even simple cooking pots bear the quiet marks of soot and flame, testaments to shared meals and the warmth of ancient hearths. These dark, matte layers of carbon are a physical archive of thermodynamics, a record of the slow, controlled oxidation of wood and fuel. The soot accumulates where the cooler ceramic surface meets the hot, hungry flame, documenting the transfer of heat energy essential for transformation. These marks tell of the slow, patient labor of cooking, the time spent waiting for the water to boil or the stew to simmer down to its tender conclusion. They are the gentle scars of utility, a dark whisper of countless evenings when the family gathered in the soft, flickering light. The clay, subjected to repeated thermal stress, remains resolute, the evidence of fire clinging faithfully to its exterior. This soot provides a quiet, insulating layer, but more importantly, it offers a tangible link to the physics of warmth and the profound biological need for cooked sustenance. When you touch the dark surface, you feel the memory of heat, not the sharp burn of the kiln, but the gentle, persistent warmth of the hearth fire that fed generations under the slow, steady cycle of the moon. 36. The vast numbers of everyday vessels suggest a quiet, pervasive human need for containment, order, and gentle domesticity. The sheer volume of pottery recovered across archaeological sites speaks to a fundamental biological and psychological drive to define boundaries and manage resources, mirroring the cellular need to maintain a contained internal environment separate from the external world. Each jar, bowl, and cup is a small triumph of material organization, transforming shapeless liquid or loose grain into manageable, safe portions. This abundance speaks of a society settling into a steady, predictable rhythm, where the chaos of nature is gently tamed by the geometry of the fired clay. The quiet repetition of the shapes, the uniform curve of 1,000 bowls, the steady depth of 100 basins, is a soothing statistical lullaby, representing the smooth, steady functioning of the daily domestic engine. They illustrate the gentle human desire to slow down the quick passage of life by preserving and ordering its necessities. The large numbers do not represent noise or clutter, but rather a quiet, deep satisfaction in the reliable presence of structure, ensuring that resources are ready, resting patiently within their earthy, curved shells until the next cycle of nourishment begins. 37. Pitchers designed for wine often feature elegant, flowing necks, making the act of pouring feel like a slow, graceful ritual. This elegant design is an application of fluid dynamics, guiding the heavy, slow-moving liquid in a gentle arc from containment into presentation. The narrow neck controls the flow rate, ensuring that the liquid exits the vessel with laminar smoothness rather than turbulent splatter. As the pitcher tilts, gravity takes over with smooth, patient insistence, pulling the wine in a quiet, unbroken ribbon. The curvature of the neck and lip is calibrated to prevent dripping, an engineering of quiet precision that turns a simple transfer of substance into a moment of deliberate slowness. The hand holding the pitcher naturally adjusts its speed to the pace of the flow, creating a brief, meditative pause in the movement of the meal. This moment of pouring is a silent performance, a gentle acknowledgement of the liquid's value and the slow, complex process of its creation, fermentation, and aging. It reminds us that grace can be found in the simplest acts when they are performed with thoughtful slowness, allowing the physics of motion to unfold in a controlled, beautiful, and utterly peaceful manner, ensuring not a drop is wasted and the flow is perfectly steady, mirroring the desired steady flow of life itself. 38. When empty, a large jar offers a silent, cool refuge, a hollow space defined only by the enduring, curved boundary of the clay. This negative space is not truly empty, but is filled with the calm, still air of the room, often slightly cooler than the external environment due to the gentle insulating properties of the thick, fired ceramic walls. The jar becomes a quiet chamber, a monument to the concept of volume, patiently waiting to be called back into service. Its emptiness has a silent weight, defined by the lasting geometry that surrounds it. You can almost feel the air inside, heavy and undisturbed, settling softly against the smooth interior. The silence within the vessel is profound, a deep echo that absorbs stray sounds and holds them captive within the enduring curvature. It is a study in boundaries, the hard, fixed line of the clay separating the interior stillness from the restless movement outside. This hollow space is a quiet metaphor for rest and containment, a reminder that the definition of a thing often relies just as much on what is absent as on what is present. The jar waits, passive and steady, for the distant day when the seasonal cycle brings forth new stores, and the cool void is filled once more with patient, waiting substance. 39. Miniature pots, sometimes used as quiet toys or funerary offerings, possess a unique charm in their condensed, perfect forms. These tiny vessels represent the concept of scaling laws applied to craftsmanship, requiring the same precise attention to detail and geometry as their large counterparts, but executed on a canvas the size of a thumb. Their smallness encourages a sense of stillness and careful observation, demanding a gentle, focused touch. As toys, they offer a quiet simulation of domestic life, allowing small hands to practice the rituals of containment and transfer without the weight and fragility of full-sized vessels. As funerary offerings, they symbolize a condensed, perfect version of the necessities of life, ensuring that the resting soul is provisioned in a quiet, compact manner for its long, celestial journey. The material, the clay, is the same enduring substance, but the form is simplified and intensely focused. Handling one invites a feeling of peaceful contemplation, marveling at how the physics of the wheel and the heat of the fire can be controlled to produce such delicate, yet permanent perfection. They are quiet reminders that even the smallest, most insignificant objects can hold profound meaning and geometric completeness, existing peacefully in their diminutive scale, asking for nothing but gentle regard. 40. The soft light of the moon catching the rounded shoulder of a vessel highlights the gentle transition between light and shadow. The moon, moving in its slow, predictable orbit, casts light that is diffused and cool, devoid of the harsh intensity of the daytime sun. As this gentle lunar light encounters the smooth, convex curve of the ceramic shoulder, it does not stop abruptly, but yields slowly, creating a perfect gradient, a soft sliver of transition that astronomers call the terminator. This gradual darkening demonstrates the physics of reflection and curvature. The light rays that strike the shoulder directly are returned softly to the eye, while those that glance away fall instantly into the deep, velvety shadow clinging to the underside of the vessel. The shoulder itself acts as a quiet geometric metaphor, a boundary where light reluctantly gives way to darkness, much like the slow, steady transition from wakefulness into deep, restorative sleep. The cool, pearlescent glow emphasizes the enduring smoothness of the fired clay, making the vessel appear to float softly against the obscurity of the night. This play of gentle light and soft shadow is an image of profound stillness, a silent lesson in the inevitability of cycles, where light and darkness eternally and quietly define each other through the enduring, patient form of the sleeping pot. 41. Polish marks, visible under magnification, show the patient, repetitive circular motions used to finish the surface before firing. These slight arcs etched upon the surface are not imperfections, but rather the durable signatures of sustained human effort, miniature maps recording the passing of concentrated time. Imagine the hand moving, orbiting around the center axis, a slow, gentle planetary dance performed by muscle and quiet intention, establishing a rhythmic pattern that transforms roughness into smoothness. Each microscopic groove speaks of a singular moment, patiently repeated countless times, resembling the gentle, relentless lapping of water on a stone shore, or the slow, steady grind of continental plates adjusting their ancient positions. The final surface, appearing effortless and seamless, is actually a vast landscape of miniature, overlapping trails, paths smoothed over by the constant application of gentle friction. This subtle kinetic energy, the warmth generated by the rubbing cloth or smoothing tool, momentarily disrupts the molecular lattice of the fired clay, coaxing the material to yield its rough edges and accept a new destiny of polished silence. It is a slow, meditative process, mirroring the gradual smoothing of mountains by wind and water over immense geological eras. This quiet rhythm of patient circulation is a universal principle, found in the Earth's daily rotation, the moon's measured journey across the night sky, and the spiral structures of distant star clusters, all reflected perfectly in the small, repetitive circular motion captured permanently beneath the glaze. When we hold this object close, We are touching the distilled essence of that labor, the quiet achievement of uniformity born from an exhaustive sequence of careful, individual movements, each one an acknowledgement of the necessary slowness required for the true perfection of the surface. The polish holds the stillness of the final act, preserving the quiet history of its making right down to the microscopic scale, waiting patiently for the soft light to reveal its hidden map of dedication and patience. 42. The simple, unadorned surfaces of truly ancient wares convey a quiet confidence, relying only on purity of shape and material. The ancient vessel stands quietly, demanding nothing more than its own fundamental, truthful existence, free from the necessity of elaborate carvings or distracting pigments. Its inherent beauty rests solely in the graceful curve of its profile, the precise, mathematical sweep dictated entirely by its necessary function. This simple form conveys a deep and lasting confidence, the quiet assurance that fundamental utility is the root of all enduring, lasting art. Before decoration was born from cultural desire, there was only the imperative need for effective containment, for a shell to securely hold water or grain against the ceaseless, slow entropy of the open air. The materials themselves speak with quiet authority, the deep texture of the fired earth, the faint, shimmering imperfections where traces of sand or mica glint faintly under the light. These small, natural inclusions remind us gently that the vessel is not a separate entity from the ground, but rather an elegant extension of it, lifted and shaped through human thought and the transformative power of fire. This quiet aesthetic, born purely from the practical requirements of survival and daily ritual, effortlessly transcends the rapid, passing fluctuations of temporary fashion. It is an enduring geometry, akin to the perfect logarithmic spiral of a nautilus shell, or the predictable branching flow pattern of a river delta seeking the sea. These smooth surfaces, unburdened by any excess, offer a grounding sense of clarity and purpose, relying only on the honest relationship established between the quiet intention of the maker's mind, the clay's humble ability to hold its shape, and the fire's silent, deep, transforming heat. It is a quiet lesson in essence and stillness, where the object's enduring identity is wholly defined by its fundamental purpose and the irreducible, pure quality of its composition, whispering softly of long continuity across the vast, quiet ocean of elapsed time. 43. Variations in wall thickness are a gentle reminder of the human hand's slight tremor, a momentary lapse of mechanical uniformity. Observe closely the subtle geography mapped across the object's vertical surface, the slight, almost imperceptible variance in the width of the walls. This deviation from perfect mechanical uniformity is not truly a flaw, but rather an indelible, quiet signature left by the living hand that guided the process of its formation. It quietly speaks of the momentary physical lapse, the slight muscular tremor inherent in the organic life of the maker, a subtle, involuntary push or pull that briefly deviated from the absolute intended axis of rotation. While the theoretical precision of a machine seeks absolute, flawless congruence, the potter's wheel, guided by the living, breathing body, accepts small, soothing oscillations, mirroring the steady human heartbeat or the natural, involuntary twitch of tired muscles near the close of a long, focused day of steady work. Imagine the pliable clay rising under the steady pressure of the thumbs, responding immediately to the lightest fluctuation in applied force, translating that momentary human instability into a lasting, material form. These minuscule millimeters of difference quietly chart the relationship between the ideal intent and the physical reality of creation, a gentle reminder that even the most intense concentration yields sometimes to the quiet, natural rhythms of physiology. Just as no two leaves on a tree are perfectly identical in the detail of their venation, so too does this variation in wall thickness reflect the natural, quiet uniqueness inherent in its making. It introduces a subtle, comforting warmth, a sense of quiet vulnerability that pure mechanical repetition can never truly achieve. It is like the slight, predictable wobble in the slow orbit of a distant moon, the barely perceptible drag in the current of a very slow river, a silent, soft acknowledgement that true life and creation require movement and minor, soothing variations within a much larger framework of steady constancy. 44. Many bowls were perfectly sized to fit the cupped hands of the user, creating a comforting, gentle connection across vast time. These vessels were crafted with an inherent, unspoken understanding of the quiet needs of human anatomy, designed precisely to rest nestled within the hollow cradle naturally formed by two open, cupped hands. This sizing is never accidental. It is an act of gentle, profound, intentional connection spanning centuries of human use. When we lift such a piece from the surface of the table, our muscles immediately register an immediate deep comfort, a primal sense of ergonomic fitness that speaks directly to our earliest requirements for warmth and secure sustenance. The smooth curve of the clay mirrors the soft swell of the palm, creating a thermal bridge where heat transfer is perfectly optimized, allowing the contents, perhaps warm gruel or comforting, freshly brewed tea, to gently radiate their energy into the waiting body. This connection across vast stretches of quiet time is purely physical and deeply reassuring, bypassing the need for language and cultural specifics. It is the simple, silent communication that exists between the object's steadfast form and the basic biology of the human hand, a recognition of shared mammalian geometry that transcends age. Holding this piece of perfect fit creates a moment of inherent stillness, grounding the user through immediate tactile affirmation. We are linked to the original, ancient user, not through shared specific memory, but through shared fundamental sensation. The precise weight, the smooth texture, the capacity for secure containment. The bowl quietly becomes an extension of the body's natural posture, supporting the slow, necessary ritual of eating or drinking. It is a quiet reminder that some designs are so fundamental to the human experience that they are truly timeless, guided solely by the immutable, gentle dimensions of the hands that hold them, remaining steady and deeply supportive across the long, slow cycle of generations. 45. Even vessels cracked and repaired speak of their high value, carefully mended to continue their silent service within the home. Even a vessel marked by the deep, visible fissures of an unfortunate accident, yet painstakingly mended and returned to its quiet, necessary service, speaks volumes about its enduring practical and emotional value. The quiet decision to repair, rather than simply discard, is a profound and moving testament to the object's significant place within the daily, slow rhythm of the home, transforming it from a mere generic container into a treasured companion. Ancient repair techniques often involved drilling tiny, precise holes along the crack line, stitching the edges gently together with fine metal wire, or sometimes using natural, dark resins, creating visible scars that trace the quiet history of the breakage and subsequent care. These mended lines are never truly imperfections. They are gentle, material biographies, firm records of a moment of fragility followed by patient, intentional restoration. The object, though now structurally altered, continues its essential work, its silent, practical service extended indefinitely through focused human effort and quiet affection. It reminds us gently that true permanence is often achieved through patient maintenance and the conscious refusal to let go of what holds utility and meaning. The visible repair acknowledges the high cost of its initial making, the careful sourcing of the clay, the long, devoted labor of shaping, the inherent risk of the kiln firing, and steadfastly chooses continuity over easy replacement. These visible sutures are marks of deep respect, allowing the vessel to stand once more upon the familiar shelf, catching the available light differently across its newly fortified, storied seams. It is a quiet, powerful metaphor for enduring resilience, showing us that even severe breakage can be carefully integrated into the ongoing narrative of existence, allowing the object to continue providing comfort, sustenance, and containment within the slow, unfolding rhythm of domestic life. Point 46. The clay composition often reflects the local geology, grounding the object quietly to a specific place and a specific stretch of river. The very composition of the raw clay holds a silent, immutable record of its specific origin, closely reflecting the precise geology beneath the surface where it was patiently gathered. If we were to analyze its refined molecular structure, we would surely find subtle traces of the ancient riverbeds, the slow, relentless erosion of distant, older hills, and the specific mix of silica, iron oxides, and alumina particular to that small geographic stretch of earth. The vessel, therefore, is quietly and firmly grounded to a specific place, an anchor linking the object to a particular moment in the Earth's long, steady, complex history. The raw clay material itself is a deep product of weathering, a gentle and persistent breakdown of much harder bedrock, washed down perhaps by cyclical seasonal floods and deposited slowly over millennia, layer upon patient, heavy layer. When the ancient potter harvested this material, they were unknowingly reaching directly into a profound cycle of planetary transformation and sedimentation. The final color and texture of the fired ware often clearly betray these deep origins. A faint reddish hue speaks quietly of inherent iron deposits. A silky smoothness suggests deep, undisturbed sedimentation near a slow water source. This quiet, natural connection is profoundly reassuring, confirming that the objects we use every day are not abstract creations but direct, tangible extensions of the land itself. When we handle the finished piece, we are literally touching the distilled essence of a specific river's long journey, the quiet, persistent power of water and gravity patiently shaping the continental crust. The completed pot stands as a subtle monument to that precise location, quietly testifying to the hidden mineral wealth of the soil, maintaining a silent, unbreakable bond with the specific river bend or fertile valley, where its geological elements first coalesced long before human hands began their forming work. Point 47. Water seeping through the porous terracotta once provided quiet cooling, keeping stored liquids fresh in the desert heat. Terracotta, being naturally and subtly porous, possesses the quiet, inherent ability to facilitate a gentle, continuous cooling process through the elegant, simple principles of thermodynamics and energy exchange. Water molecules, contained carefully within the vessel, slowly migrate outward through the tiny, microscopic channels embedded in the baked clay structure. Upon reaching the exterior surface, these water molecules encounter the drier ambient air and require a precise amount of energy to transition from their liquid state into an invisible vapor. This necessary energy, known as the latent heat of vaporization, is steadily and silently drawn from the immediate environment, primarily the vessel walls and the liquid held securely within. This process creates a perpetual, subtle drop in temperature, initiating a silent, natural refrigeration system that is particularly effective in the extremely dry heat of arid climates. It is a passive, patient, and continuous process, relying entirely on the natural difference in atmospheric humidity and the tireless motion of heat energy seeking a perfect equilibrium. The resulting quiet cooling effect ensures that the stored liquid remains refreshingly tempered, untouched by the searing, intrusive intensity of the desert sun. We observe in this function a beautiful, natural interplay between simple material science and the large, natural cycles of the environment, where the seemingly simple action of water changing its state provides a constant, gentle, life-sustaining service. This silent phenomenon is a subtle, constant reminder of the molecular ballet that underpins all stability, the continuous flow of energy that maintains life, transforming thermal heat into molecular motion, and cooling the contents with the silent, steady persistence of evaporation. It is a comforting, ancient truth that the material itself, through its gentle, regulated breath of moisture, quietly guards its contents against the intrusion of excessive warmth. 48. A slight warp near the rim confirms the intense, unforgiving heat of the kiln, a powerful force managed by instinct and subtle adjustments. The slight, almost imperceptible warp visible near the vessel's rim serves as a silent, physical confirmation of the intense, unforgiving heat that defined its final, permanent creation. This subtle deviation from a perfect circle is a material record of the threshold moment when the clay transitioned completely from pliant, dry earth into permanent, hard ceramic, occurring deep within the incandescent, fiery heart of the kiln. The heat required for this vitrification is an immensely powerful, demanding force, managed not by precise modern digital controls, but often by generations of instinct, accumulated practical experience, and subtle, critical adjustments made by the watchful, patient potter. At the peak firing temperatures, the clay becomes transiently slightly plastic again, momentarily yielding to the silent, insistent pull of gravity and the directional forces of the intense radiant energy flow. If the weight of the material was unevenly distributed or the heat differential across the kiln space was too sudden, the rim might gently sag, or the perfect circular form might subtly ease into a soft oval shape. This gentle warping is a quiet, permanent record of the object's delicate struggle against the limits of its own form in the very face of chemical transformation. It is the signature of a close firing run, a moment where the balance between perfect stability and complete collapse hung tenuously in the volatile, incandescent air. This slight, human imperfection is paradoxically soothing, because it confirms the overwhelming, quiet power of the natural elements involved, the fire that must both destroy and ultimately create, and the intense skill required to successfully guide the object through that volatile, necessary state. The gentle curve of the warp tells a quiet, powerful story of fiery baptism, stabilizing the material forever, yet bearing the soft, enduring scar of its slow, difficult passage through extreme heat. 49. The interior space of a closed vessel holds a sample of the still, quiet air sealed within when it was last stoppered millennia ago. When a closed vessel remains stoppered and undisturbed for centuries or even millennia, the interior space holds much more than simple emptiness. It contains a quiet, perfectly sealed sample of the ambient air from the precise moment it was last secured. This internal atmosphere is a tiny, still fragment of ancient, unmoving time, insulated entirely from the turbulent movements and atmospheric changes of the exterior, ever-shifting world. Imagine the air molecules inside, the ancient oxygen, nitrogen, and trace noble gases, moving very slowly in a constant, gentle Brownian motion, yet completely undisturbed by the winds, storms, and atmospheric shifts of subsequent centuries. This conceptual piece speaks profoundly to the deep stillness that containment can offer, successfully capturing a specific, ancient breath of the past within its walls. That sealed air carries the potential ghost of lost scents, the faint, subtle trace of pollens or fine dust motes that settled into the still volume before the careful seal was definitively set. When we contemplate the still, internal volume, we are meditating on a specific, frozen moment in atmospheric history, a precious pocket of quietude preserved through the silent diligence of the stopper and the unyielding ceramic form. The world outside may have seen empires rise and fall, forests regrown and seasons cycled countless, dramatic times, but the air within remains steadfastly, the exact same composition it held when the object was last used and put away for its long, silent slumber. It is a quiet time capsule, a scientific and poetic reminder that even the most volatile and ethereal substance, such as air, can be rendered still and permanent when held gently within the unyielding confines of a ceramic shell, whispering softly of the atmosphere of a bygone age. 50. When placed in a dark room, the silhouette of a pot maintains its gentle, enduring outline, a constant form in shifting darkness. Place the vessel in a space of complete, deep darkness, and as the ambient light slowly fades entirely, its silhouette maintains a gentle, unwavering outline against the softer background of the receding shadow. This enduring boundary, the dark, predictable curve meeting the absolute absence of light, quietly confirms the constancy and permanence of its three-dimensional form, regardless of the fluctuating intensity of external illumination. While the finer details of the surface, the precise texture, the subtle variations in color, the history of its specific marks, slowly retreat into impenetrable shadow, the fundamental geometry of the vessel remains solidly present and predictable. The silhouette is the irreducible essence of the form, the fundamental shape defined by the persistent influences of gravity and necessity of function. It stands as a constant, quiet presence in shifting darkness, a dependable, recognizable shape in the fluid, perceptual nature of night. Imagine the moon moving slowly across the immense night sky, changing the angle of incidence dramatically, yet the vessel's outline holds firm, a quiet, stable anchor in the ephemeral, gentle dance of light and shadow that touches the walls. This visual steadfastness is profoundly reassuring, reflecting the underlying mathematical precision inherent in its construction. The simple outline, defined precisely by the edge where the material ceases and the surrounding air begins, speaks quietly of limits and definitions, offering clarity in a space of visual uncertainty. It reminds us that fundamental structure is always enduring, even when all the visible details are completely obscured. The vessel, through its simple, quiet profile, offers a powerful lesson in constancy, proving that true form maintains its identity against all alterations of perception, holding its gentle curve steady until the soft, inevitable return of the morning light. 51. The gentle turning of the potter's wheel gradually slows its quiet momentum, a physical demonstration of friction and the gentle resistance of the air molecules settling around the wet clay. As the rotation ceases, the very last touch of the creator's hand, a soft pressure exerted deep within the forming base, leaves its ephemeral signature. This mark is a quiet spiral, often unseen during the vessel's long life of service, a secret held in the dense core of the ceramic. These hidden lines map the decay of centripetal force, charting the final deceleration from rapid spin to absolute stillness. When we gently hold the empty vessel up to the light, allowing the rays to drift softly across the base, these microscopic valleys and ridges become visible, silent transcripts of the moment the clay surrendered its malleability. They speak of the precise pressure exerted by the fingertip, measuring the resistance of the water molecules still suspended between the microscopic platelets of the earth material. This spiral is not a functional element but a residue of process, a soft echo of the energy expended and then allowed to dissipate. It is a record of gravity holding the clay steady while the wheel performed its quiet dance of creation. The lines flow inward toward the absolute center, marking the perfect equilibrium sought by the potter. Only when the duties of holding water or grain are momentarily suspended, when the vessel is simply a form existing in the quiet air, does it reveal this intimate, spiraling memory of its birth upon the turning pivot, connecting the silent clay to the slow, steady orbit of the larger world. The dust that eventually settles within an empty vessel rests upon these ancient grooves, a fine layer of the present settling softly onto the map of the past, creating a gentle gradient of time made visible by the absence of content. This deep history is a comforting rhythm, a steady breath recorded in baked earth. 52. The persistence of certain ceramic forms across vast spans of time suggests a deep, comforting agreement between the people and the environment they inhabit. When a particular vessel shape proves itself perfectly suited to the local rhythms, perhaps the narrow neck minimizes evaporation in the hot, dry air, or the wide, shallow bowl accommodates the slow, steady rising of a specific local grain. That form becomes woven into the very fabric of daily life. This is not stagnation, but a quiet perfection achieved through subtle, generational repetition. The forms evolve with the slowness of geological change, perhaps shifting only slightly as the local river slowly deposits a slightly finer grade of sediment in the clay source, or as the average humidity adjusts across millennia. The potters of each generation inherit the wisdom of the curve, the understanding of how gravity interacts with the specific mass of the finished piece, ensuring stability and graceful handling. They are refining an existing melody, not composing a new one, adding quiet grace notes to a chorus already sung across many lifetimes. This stylistic consistency mirrors the slow, dependable cycling of the seasons, the steady return of the migratory birds, the predictable waxing and waning of the moon that governs the tides, and the slow, inexorable movement of the tectonic plates beneath the Earth's crust. Such repetition suggests a society comfortably nested within its landscape, where survival needs are met with a quiet, reliable efficiency. The subtle changes that do occur are often microscopic: a slight thinning of the wall for efficient heating, a smoother curve for easier cleaning, refinements so gradual they are barely noticeable across a single human lifespan, visible only when observing the long, steady march of centuries. These gentle forms are physical manifestations of cultural stability, a soft, reassuring affirmation that the necessary tasks of life continue with predictable, quiet grace, undisturbed by rapid, jarring shifts in aesthetics or utility. The familiar shape offers comfort, an anchor in the slow flow of time, linking the present handler to the hands that shaped the very first successful prototype long ago. 53. The true aesthetic comfort of a vessel often resides not in ornamentation, but in the quiet fulfillment of its primary purpose. A perfectly balanced jug feels effortless in the hand, its handle aligning precisely with the natural curve of the wrist, allowing the weight of the contained liquid to distribute evenly across the supporting muscles. This physical grace is a form of engineered tranquility, minimizing the exertion required for the essential tasks of sustenance. When a pot holds water without seeping, or stores grain without inviting intrusion, it is demonstrating a deep, stable harmony between material science and human need. The clay, once mud, has been fundamentally altered by the high heat of the kiln, transforming its molecular structure into an impermeable matrix that defies the natural flow of water molecules seeking equilibrium. This quiet resistance to entropy is a profound beauty. The curve of the lip allows the liquid to pour in a smooth, predictable stream, adhering gently to the ceramic surface only as long as required, before disconnecting cleanly without drips, respecting the fluid physics of surface tension and gravity. This efficiency is a silent contribution to the long, steady work of survival. There is a deep, comforting reliability in objects that perform their duties flawlessly, year after year, century after century, without complaint or required maintenance beyond simple cleaning. They become invisible anchors in the rhythm of the day, allowing the user's focus to remain on the larger cycles of planting, harvesting, and rest. This quiet, dependable utility is a reflection of the universe's own elegant efficiency, where energy is never wasted and systems settle into the most stable, low-energy configuration possible. The beauty is inherent in the structure, in the thickness of the base designed to absorb the gentle shock of placement, and in the curve of the shoulder that maximizes volume while minimizing the surface area exposed to evaporation. It is the unpretentious elegance of something that simply works, allowing life to proceed with a settled, peaceful continuity. 54. The fading of the rich red slip is a slow, quiet chemical process, a gentle dissolution of color across the millennia. This decoration, often derived from finely sifted iron oxides suspended in a clay wash, relies on the stable chemical bonds formed during the firing process. Yet even the hardest ceramics submit to the relentless, patient work of elemental forces. Over time, the microscopic particles of iron, once vibrant and deeply saturated, begin to interact softly with the surrounding environment, airborne moisture molecules gently penetrate the porous surface of the slip, causing minute oxidative reactions that subtly alter the crystalline structure of the pigment. Sunlight, filtered across thousands of dawns and sunsets, delivers steady, cumulative photons that gently agitate the electron shell of the iron compounds, slowly minimizing their ability to perfectly reflect the specific wavelengths that register as deep red to the human eye. The color does not vanish suddenly but recedes softly, blurring the edges of the painted patterns, creating a hazy, watercolor effect that softens the initial stark declaration of the decoration. It is as if the pigment is slowly remembering its original state as earth dust, gradually returning to the pale, diffuse palette of the geology from which it was extracted. The vibrant hue transforms into a soft whisper of itself, resting comfortably between presence and absence. This slow fading is a peaceful observation of the second law of thermodynamics, where ordered states naturally progress toward a state of quiet equilibrium, diffusing their energy and definition across the vastness of time. The remaining pattern, hazy and imprecise, carries a unique comfort, suggesting that even permanence is temporary, and that all intense expressions eventually soften into a gentle, generalized atmosphere of being. We see the slow drift of the atoms, molecules detaching quietly from the matrix, carried away on the gentle breath of the wind, or absorbed back into the patient cycle of the soil, completing a quiet journey from geological deep time, through human artistry, and back again, to the gentle anonymity of the Earth. 55. To hold a ceramic survivor of the deep ocean is to quietly touch the relentless, rhythmic energy of the marine environment. This object has rested for centuries not in still darkness, but within a fluid, dynamic matrix of constant, gentle motion. The deep ocean currents, vast and slow-moving, flow like subterranean rivers, applying continuous, subtle pressure to the submerged form. The water itself, heavy with dissolved salts and cold density, presses inward equally upon every molecule of the ceramic, a quiet test of the vessel's structural integrity. Its very survival attests to the strength of the kiln fire, which fused the clay molecules tightly enough to withstand the immense hydrostatic pressure of the abyss. The surfaces may feel subtly smoothed, not by the violent impact of the wreck, but by the patient, ceaseless abrasion of fine sand particles suspended in the slow-moving bottom currents, rubbing away rough edges with the infinite patience of geological time. There is a faint, cool scent that sometimes clings to these survivors, an echo of the deep chemical processes, the slow decay of organic matter, the silent respiration of marine life that surrounded the pot for its long, watery vigil. The weight of the vessel is now intertwined with the memory of the water it displaced, the gravity of the ocean floor that held it steady, and the complex, invisible paths of the currents that drifted past its form, shaping its silent resting place among the sediments. It becomes a quiet compass pointing toward the physics of the lost world, the slow, cyclical stirring of the water masses, driven by differences in temperature and salinity, charting a course across the globe over thousands of years. This piece of clay holds the quiet narrative of the sea, a story of resistance and stability against forces far grander than human ambition, reminding us that nature's power is often expressed not in sudden chaos, but in the steady, inexorable flow of predictable energy cycles. The pottery is a quiet witness to the deep, slow breathing of the Earth's interconnected water systems. 56. Within the climate-controlled stillness of the museum space, the complete ancient pot exists as a perfectly balanced anomaly, an anchor point in the steady current of passing time. While the soft shuffling of shoes on the polished floor and the gentle murmur of voices denote the restless movement of the present moment, the ceramic vessel remains fundamentally inert, its atoms fixed in their stable, baked positions. It commands attention not through loudness, but through its absolute stillness, a quiet assertion of temporal longevity. The gallery lights, carefully calibrated to minimize destructive ultraviolet wavelengths, fall gently upon its surface, illuminating the contours forged millennia ago, highlighting the subtle imperfections that map the maker's human touch. The object silently filters the kinetic energy of the modern world, absorbing the vibrations of external traffic and the quick thoughts of onlookers without reaction. It exists solely as an embodiment of its past utility and form. This quiet reverence stems from the understanding that the object has successfully traversed countless seasonal cycles, endured political upheavals, and witnessed the slow rise and fall of civilizations, yet remains whole, an unbroken line of material evidence. Its form is an equation solved long ago, a static solution to the fluid problems of human need. It asks nothing of the viewer but quiet observation, offering instead a peaceful contrast to the constant input and demand of the contemporary moment. Its silence is expansive, encompassing the quiet sounds of its distant kiln fire and the gentle scrape of the shovel that unearthed it. The pot resides in a state of suspended animation, defying entropy long enough to impart a sense of deep, comforting stability. It is a quiet object lesson in permanence, reminding the transient observer of the steady, unwavering cycles of the physical universe that proceed long after the brief noise of human activity has subsided into soft dust. 57. The presence of small, carefully drilled holes near the base of certain pots suggests a deliberate management of liquid flow, a controlled surrender to the downward pull of gravity. These apertures are designed not for rapid expulsion, but for quiet, steady draining, allowing the contained liquid to seep slowly out, molecule by molecule, minimizing splash or noise. If used for ritual purposes, this gentle drainage symbolizes a peaceful release, the quiet departure of the old or the undesirable, allowing the energy to return softly to the earth beneath the vessel. The liquid, obeying the simple physics of pressure, moves from the region of higher concentration inside the pot to the lower pressure outside, utilizing the narrow channel provided by the drill hole. The slow speed of the flow often engages capillary action, where the surface tension of the water causes it to cling momentarily to the ceramic edges, ensuring a smooth, predictable weep rather than an abrupt rush. This method of sanitation or cleansing is inherently respectful of the surrounding environment, avoiding forceful disruption. It is a miniature hydrological cycle enacted within the frame of the vessel, the water completing its immediate task before quietly merging back into the groundwater system. The size of the hole is a precise calculation, large enough to prevent clogging by dissolved solids, yet small enough to regulate the speed of the descent, creating a rhythm of quiet, inevitable emptying. The pot, in this function, becomes a gentle timer, marking the passage of moments by the slow, reliable descent of the fluid level, concluding its action with a quiet sigh of final release. This soft, functional element speaks to a profound respect for cleanliness and ritual closure, understanding that the most significant transformations often occur not in sudden events, but through the patient, consistent, gentle application of elemental forces over time. The slow drip is a subtle metronome of purification. 58. The wide serving platter, designed to be the generous focus of a shared meal, carries the quiet, invisible memory of many communal gatherings etched into its base. This smooth ring of abrasion is a physical transcription of social kinetics, the record of countless gentle rotations across a hard surface, often a stone or wooden table. As the platter was subtly nudged by various hands seeking access to the contents, the movement was rarely a straight slide, but a slow, deliberate spin around a central axis, minimizing the effort required for equitable distribution. This movement translates kinetic energy into gentle heat and the slow erosion of the ceramic molecules against the surface material. The abrasion forms a perfect, circular ring because the vessel's weight, the combined mass of the clay and its contents, is always focused symmetrically downward by gravity, ensuring uniform wear along the contact point. Each microscopic scrape represents a moment of human interaction, a quiet exchange of attention and sustenance, demonstrating the cyclical nature of shared life. The platter performs the role of a passive, steady centrifuge for communal energy, facilitating the flow of food and conversation. The degree of polish in this ring of ware provides an archaeological timeline. A deeper, softer sheen speaks of prolonged, gentle use over generations, while a rougher abrasion suggests contact with a coarser, less yielding surface. This smooth, silent record reminds us that even the most inert objects are profoundly shaped by the repeated actions of the people who rely upon them. The continuous, cyclical motion of serving becomes embedded in the object's physical form, a permanent scar of utility. This gentle rotation embodies a quiet, rhythmic dance around the nourishment, a peaceful acknowledgement of collective need, and the soft, steady tempo of sustained community life. 59. The quiet dominance of pale colors and earth tones in the ceramic palette is a direct, peaceful reflection of the local geology, establishing a profound harmony between the manufactured object and its natural origin. These hues are not arbitrary aesthetic choices, but are dictated by the mineral composition of the accessible clay deposits and the oxides available for pigmenting. The soft tans, muted browns, and gentle creams originate from iron, manganese, and aluminum compounds, naturally present in the surrounding soil and rock formations. When fired, these elements stabilize into colors that perfectly mimic the local sandstone, river gravel, and dry earth. This natural integration provides a gentle visual comfort. The vessels do not loudly demand attention but settle quietly into the environment, offering a subtle camouflage that reduces visual friction. This blending is functional as well as aesthetic, ensuring that the vessels absorb and reflect light in ways consistent with their surroundings, which helps in thermal regulation. Lighter tones reflect more solar radiation, keeping the contents cooler beneath the intense sunlight, assisting the slow preservation of stored provisions. The consistent palette creates a sense of continuous flow between the home, the tools, and the landscape, suggesting a culture deeply settled within the parameters of its ecosystem. There is a deep, soothing sense of inevitability in this color relationship, a quiet acknowledgement that the materials of life are provided by the slow, steady process of geological formation and erosion. The colors mirror the gentle process of sedimentation and the gradual accumulation of minerals over eons, linking the ephemeral moment of human creation back to the vast, slow timeline of the planet. These soft tones provide a restful backdrop for the human eye, ensuring that every glance at the pottery offers a quiet visual return to the deep, stable source of the earth itself, promoting a sense of calm continuity. 60. The gentle variation in the thickness of the slip coating is a subtle dance between the physics of viscosity and the persistent pull of gravity upon the wet clay particles. When the liquid slip, a mixture of fine clay and water, is applied to the vessel, the fluid layer does not settle uniformly, especially on the curved geometry of the pot's shoulder or belly. As the moisture begins its slow evaporation, the heavier mineral particles suspended within the wash are subtly drawn downward by gravity, causing the coating to thin slightly at the highest points and accumulate minutely in the lower curves and recesses. This differential thickness is often invisible to the touch, but profoundly impacts the way light interacts with the finished, fired surface. Where the slip is thinner, the underlying body clay may slightly assert its rougher texture, causing light to diffuse softly. Where the slip gathers, it forms a marginally thicker, glacier layer that reflects light with a deeper, quieter sheen. This variation creates an illusion of subtle movement across the surface, a visual rhythm that suggests the slow flow of the original liquid application, now eternally frozen in the fired matrix. The light does not reflect back in a single, static burst, but seems to drift and glide across the contours, highlighting the gentle swells and valleys of the form. This gentle movement speaks of the fluidity of the creation process and the natural tendency of matter to seek its lowest energetic state under gravitational influence. It is a quiet testament to the moment the potter ceased turning the piece and allowed the laws of physics to complete the subtle modulation of the surface texture. This creates a comforting, organic imperfection, a softness that prevents the object from feeling rigidly machine-made, reminding us that its final texture is the result of a quiet, inevitable partnership between human intention and the predictable, steady forces of the natural world. 61. Pottery represents the quiet mastery of earth, water, and fire, the three fundamental, patient elements unified by the hand. The story begins in the stillness of the deep earth, where geological time unfolds in slow layers of sedimentary quiet. Here, the feldspar and quartz begin their immense, slow transformation, broken down by eons of gentle pressure and the constant, soft abrasion of mineral migration. This is the earth element, the clay, waiting patiently in the strata, holding the deep memory of primordial heat and cooling cycles. Then comes the water, the element of yielding movement, which wraps around the dry platelets of the clay, offering lubrication and the promise of form. The water molecule is tiny yet profoundly powerful, allowing the clay structure to slide and rearrange itself under the lightest pressure of the turning hand. It is this balance of firmness and flow that allows the simple lump to rise toward the quiet center. When the form is complete, the object must face the third, irreversible element, the fire. The kiln is a space of necessary silence, where temperatures climb steadily, mimicking the deep physics of planetary cores and stellar formation. In this intense heat, the water is driven out, not quickly, but slowly, allowing the molecular bonds to realign themselves into a rigid, crystalline structure. This vitrification is a quiet, permanent baptism, transforming the fragile earth into stone-like substance that resists the soft erosion of centuries. The human hand serves merely as the mediator, guiding the three timeless forces into a lasting harmony, a silent testament to the gentle power found in elemental cooperation and quiet mastery. The finished vessel stands, holding the stabilized energy of the earth, the memory of the water's shaping movement, and the immutable strength gifted by the patient fire, ready to begin its long, slow cycle through human time, undisturbed by the urgency of passing moments. 62. The faint scent of ancient resin or oil sometimes remains trapped within the porous clay, a gentle olfactory ghost of the past. Imagine the vessel resting in its silent museum vitrine, seemingly devoid of life or active presence, yet holding within its microstructure a molecular whisper of long-ago function. Clay, even when fully fired, retains a slight porosity, a network of microscopic tunnels and chambers woven throughout its fabric. When the vessel held olive oil, fragrant incense, or preservative resin, these organic molecules were allowed to slowly migrate into the cool, silent pores of the ceramic matrix. There they settled, protected from the rapid oxidation and dissipation that occurs in the open air. This is a profound stillness, a molecular preservation achieved through passive defense. Over hundreds or even thousands of years, the world outside moved quickly. Empires rose, seasons spun, light cycled. But within the tiny pores, the chemical structure of the oil or resin remained relatively undisturbed, existing in a state of suspended animation. Then, when the piece is finally handled or warmed by the gentle friction of examination, a few of these ancient, dormant molecules are released. They rise slowly on the thermal currents of the surrounding air, drifting like unseen dust motes until they encounter the gentle sensors of the human nose. This faint scent is not the smell of fresh preparation, but a ghost note, an echo across time, a unique vibration of decay and preservation occurring simultaneously. It reminds us that time is not always a destroyer, but sometimes a careful curator, quietly holding onto the most ethereal of details, offering a soft, barely perceptible connection to the hands and lives that once interacted with this silent, earthen form. This quiet revelation speaks to the longevity of matter and the slow release of absorbed history, a truly gentle unfolding of the past. 63. Many funerary urns served as quiet, permanent homes, holding the silent ashes of ancestors beneath a protective layer of clay. The concept of the urn is one of ultimate, gentle containment, a final, quiet enclosure designed for stillness and protection. When the body has passed through the transforming fire, the resulting ashes are elemental remnants, molecules return to their fundamental dust state. These particles require a structure that is equally patient, steady, and resistant to the forces of change. The clay vessel, hardened by its own fiery transformation, offers this sanctuary. It is a silent, terrestrial envelope, often placed beneath the earth or within a quiet niche where the slow cycling of weather cannot easily intrude. The curve of the urn's belly is a comforting, secure geometry designed to deflect the weight of the passing years. Within this ceramic shelter, the ancestors rest, reduced to their most basic composition. There is no urgency inside the urn. There is only the slow, quiet stability of the fired earth surrounding the quiet dust. The clay walls provide a thermal inertia, dampening the shock of seasonal temperature shifts, insulating the contents from the winter frost and the summer sun. It is a slow, enduring vigil kept by the material itself. The urn becomes a point of reference in a constantly flowing world, a marker that speaks not of movement or labor, but of enduring presence and profound stillness. The clay acts as a quiet boundary between the vast, chaotic forces of erosion and the delicate memory held within. It is a reminder that even when life has ceased its active motion, matter continues its slow, steady existence, providing a gentle, permanent home until the quiet cycles of geology eventually incorporate the vessel and its contents back into the patient soil from which they both arose. 64. The way light catches the microscopic pockmarks on the surface creates a subtle, starry texture that changes as you slowly turn it. To observe the surface of the vessel requires a slowness that counteracts the ordinary pace of life, demanding a quiet focus on the minute topography of the fired clay. The exterior is not perfectly smooth, but rather a landscape of tiny valleys and peaks, often resulting from fine inclusions in the clay body or the microscopic bubbles released during the firing process. When a single beam of directional light sweeps across this uneven surface, each minuscule imperfection acts as a tiny mirror or a point of light diffusion. The light rays are scattered in myriad directions, creating pinpricks of brightness against the slightly shadowed dips. This effect produces a profound illusion of depth, a quiet constellation resting on the shoulder of the pot. As the observer gently, slowly rotates the object, a movement requiring a calm, steady hand, the light source remains fixed, but the angles of incidence shift constantly. What was a shadow transforms into a point of light, and what was bright recedes into gentle shade. This kinetic play of light causes the perceived constellation to move, to flicker, and to reform its pattern. It is an extremely slow, soft dance of optics, reminiscent of watching distant stars drift in the night sky as the earth turns silently beneath them. This subtle, responsive texture is a gift of patience, revealed only when time itself seems to slow down, allowing the eye to register the quiet changes in the reflected photons. The simple surface thus holds a hidden complexity, a microcosm of stillness, illuminated by the universal constancy of light. 65. Vessels painted with scenes of harvests celebrate the quiet abundance of nature and the steady rhythm of agricultural life. The painted narratives on these ceramic forms speak to the great, slow cycle of solar energy converted into sustenance, a fundamental truth of quiet planetary function. The artist captures the moment of fulfillment, the heavy grain heads bowing under the weight of their own maturity, or the fruit hanging low and rich upon the branch. This is the celebration of photosynthesis made visible, the process by which light energy is silently absorbed and transformed into the molecular structures of life. The scenes are never hurried. They depict a stillness of accomplishment, following months of quiet waiting and steady cultivation. The rhythm of agricultural life itself is one of patience. The turning of the seasons, the inevitable cycle of rain and sun, the understanding that growth cannot be rushed by human impatience. The painted figures stand calm and focused, engaged in the measured labor of reaping and gathering, reflecting the long, deliberate preparation required to reach this moment of temporary abundance. These depictions serve as quiet anchors, connecting the human consumption of food, which is a quick, momentary action, back to the vast, slow mechanisms of the Earth's biosphere. By preserving the image of the harvest, the vessel quietly honors the deep connection between humanity and the reliable, steady generosity of the soil. When the vessel is used, perhaps holding wine or grain, it physically extends the painted scene into the daily ritual, affirming the continuous, calm flow of nature's bounty. It is a constant, silent reminder of the necessary waiting and the profound reward of observing the Earth's steady cycles. 66. The simple, deep curve of a bowl offers a perfect, gentle enclosure, a comforting shape designed for silent reception. The bowl's shape is one of essential geometry, a gentle curve that represents safety, containment, and quiet stability. It is often a section of a sphere, the most efficient form for enclosing a volume while minimizing surface tension and maximizing comforting contact. There are no sharp angles, no aggressive projections. The entire surface yields smoothly to the touch, cradling the hand that holds it. This curve is an invitation to stillness, designed not for movement or travel, but for the quiet moment of reception and nourishment. Gravity works in profound harmony with the bowl's geometry, encouraging its contents to settle toward the quiet center, finding their natural resting level. Whether it holds water, soup, or even empty air, the bowl provides a physical metaphor for interior space and gentle holding. The rim offers a soft, continuous boundary, a demarcation between the inside and the outside world, yet it never seals or imprisons. It simply defines. When held, the warmth of the vessel transfers slowly to the palms, a quiet, soothing exchange of thermal energy. This continuous curve is comforting because it mirrors natural forms: the hollow of a hand, the gentle dome of the sky, the interior of a seed pod, shapes that signify protection and cyclical renewal. The bowl is perpetually ready, silently waiting, its form speaking volumes about the value of enclosure and the simple, undeniable satisfaction found in receiving sustenance within a stable, patient, and perfectly rounded form. 67. Small, repaired chips along the rim are like soft creases in an old document, minor imperfections that add depth to the history. When a vessel experiences a small trauma, a quick, sharp contact that results in a chip or a fracture, this moment of damage is quickly absorbed into the object's timeline. But the subsequent repair speaks not of breakage, but of value and care. The repaired imperfection is evidence of a pause, a moment when a human decided that the object's continued existence was worth the time and effort of restoration. The chip itself is a quiet scar, a place where the pristine surface yields to a history of interaction. The repair material, often a subtle lacquer or perhaps an ancient adhesive, fills the void, stabilizing the structure and smoothing the abrupt transition, but never concealing the event. Instead, it highlights the moment of survival. These small, mended edges are like the soft creases found on a treasured map, folds and wear marks that confirm its long journey and frequent use. They are not failures, but gentle testimonies to a life lived fully through many hands and many occasions. The eye tends to linger on these repaired spots, drawn to the evidence of change and mending, finding a comforting authenticity in the slight unevenness of the surface. These quiet imperfections create a depth that flawless surfaces cannot possess, grounding the vessel in a reality of gentle vulnerability and enduring resilience. They communicate a long, slow passage through time, proving that even minor breaks can be integrated into the ongoing narrative, adding character without interrupting the profound quietude of the object's continuing existence. 68. The The subtle shine on a handle often results from centuries of gentle human perspiration and friction, not just intentional polish. The handle of a vessel is a point of constant, quiet communication between the object and the human who uses it. Over generations, the slight, continuous pressure of the palm and fingers, combined with the microscopic transfer of oils and salts from human perspiration, begins a slow, organic transformation of the ceramic surface. This is not a violent, abrasive action, but a gentle, steady smoothing on a molecular scale. The natural oils slowly penetrate the surface pores, darkening and enriching the color of the clay beneath, while the constant, soft friction polishes the microscopic peaks and valleys of the texture. This process is known as patination, a quiet accumulation of contact history. Each interaction is infinitesimally small, a tiny thermodynamic exchange, yet the cumulative effect across hundreds of years is profound. The handle develops a subtle, deep luster, a soft shine that feels uniquely responsive to the hand. This shine is a living surface, an unintended testament to intimacy and repetition. It feels warm and familiar because it is literally composed of the accumulated residue of countless human interactions. Unlike a bright, intentional glaze which is applied externally, this patina is a natural byproduct of shared time, a smooth, silent record of holding, lifting, and setting down. It is the object slowly absorbing the gentle essence of its users, offering a silent, reflective surface that embodies the deep, slow history of companionship between matter and life. 69. Even the simplest, undecorated terracotta tells a profound story through its very survival against the immense force of time and erosion. A simple terracotta pot, stripped of glaze or intricate design, speaks purely of structural integrity and the victory of material science over entropy. Terracotta is the most direct product of the earth, fired at moderate temperatures that solidify its structure just enough to resist dissolution by water, yet keeping it porous and grounded. Its existence across millennia is a quiet defiance against the vast, unrelenting forces of erosion and geological dissolution. Consider the relentless cycle of freezing and thawing, where water expands and contracts, stressing all materials. Consider the soft, persistent abrasion of wind carrying fine dust particles, slowly wearing away surfaces molecule by molecule. Yet the terracotta remains, often fragmented, but still fundamentally present. Its strength lies in its quiet molecular bonding established in the kiln fire, granting it a slow resistance that outpaces the speed of decay. The very composition of the simple clay, its blend of silica, alumina, and iron oxides, provides a resilience that allows it to survive, while more complex organic materials long ago vanished into the quiet cycle of the soil. This silent durability is its greatest narrative. It requires no inscription or decoration to convey its longevity. Its enduring presence is the story itself. It acts as a patient witness to the rapid movements of history, standing steadily while civilizations rise and fall around it, offering a calm, physical affirmation of the profound strength found in elemental simplicity and quiet. Enduring existence. 70. The repetitive, quiet motion of the potter's foot treading the flywheel once powered the creation of these lasting, silent objects. The creation of the vessel began not just with the hand, but with the quiet, rhythmic energy generated by the human foot. Before electric motors, the heavy flywheel, often buried beneath the bench, required the steady, continuous pressure of the potter's foot to generate rotational inertia. This motion was one of quiet, physical meditation, a deep synchronization of human muscle power with the mechanical need for constant, steady velocity. The foot pressed down, paused, and lifted, repeating this cycle endlessly, establishing a profound, organic rhythm that echoed the slow beat of the human heart and the regular intake of breath. This quiet labor transformed linear pressure into rotational speed, which, once established, provided the necessary stillness for the clay to be centered and slowly coaxed upward. The energy was not dramatic or sudden, but sustained, reflecting the understanding that lasting form requires patient, steady input. The sound in the workshop was dominated by the quiet whir of the wheel and the soft, steady shush of the foot against the pedal, a soundscape of focused creation. This mechanical rhythm served as a foundational beat for the transformation of soft earth into rigid geometry, embedding the quiet rhythm of the body's effort into the very structure of the finished piece. The stillness now held within the ceramic walls is a testament to that long, slow, repetitive motion, a silent physical memory of the steady, patient energy required to bring lasting objects into the world. 71. The slight, almost imperceptible lean in the vessel's posture tells a story of the final, fleeting moment before the tremendous heat solidified its being. It speaks of a breath held, a brief hesitation in the universal rhythm that governs all things. Gravity, which pulls the immense planets into their slow orbits and causes the smallest molecule of vapor to drift down, worked subtly on the wet clay. The potter's hand, having guided the material through its rapid, dizzying spin, finally withdrew, leaving the soft material to stand on its own for the first time. That fractional asymmetrical bias, a mere millimeter shift from perfect verticality, is a captured echo of that rest. It is the signature of a living being observing their creation, a gentle acknowledgement that perfection belongs only to the abstract equations of the distant stars, not to the grounded reality of the earth. The clay, still damp and malleable, recorded this minuscule moment of satisfaction, a quiet pause in the long cycle of creation. This soft deviation from true symmetry allows the piece to feel more deeply connected to the ebb and flow of natural forms, resembling the slow, gentle curve of a river bank or the slightly uneven growth of a single branch reaching toward the evening light. Then came the firing, the tremendous transfer of energy that stopped all molecular movement, locking the silicates and illuminates into their final, enduring matrix. The kiln, a temporary sun, poured its steady, quiet light and heat onto the vessel, eternally preserving the potter's momentary truce with the clay. This slight tilt remains, a permanent, peaceful reminder that even in stillness, there is a gentle history of movement and intention, a subtle whisper of the hand that molded the world. The vessel waits now, leaning just so, holding the memory of that last soft pause. 72. Within the deep, quiet cavity of the large storage jar, a subtle acoustic phenomenon resides, an almost silent echo that whispers of past movements and interactions. This is the container's memory, stored not in a complex biological synapse, but in the simple physics of air trapped and contained. When a sound wave enters the mouth of the vessel, it travels inward, reflecting gently off the curved, smooth walls, much like light bouncing off a celestial sphere. Though the original sounds, the soft, rhythmic glug of oil being poured, the delicate rattle of dry grains being measured, or the quiet sloshing of fermented liquid gently settling, have long since dissipated into the vast atmospheric ocean, a phantom resonance remains. The shape itself is a natural, acoustic trap, designed to hold the air captive and allow sound energy to linger just a moment longer than it should. When one listens closely to the emptiness, it is not truly void. It is filled with the residual hum of history. The air molecules inside, having been displaced by countless tiny collisions and compressions during the vessel's active life, now settle into a quiet, uniform state of gentle vibration. This subtle reverb suggests the profound capacity of inanimate objects to chronicle their existence, capturing the soft auditory texture of daily life carried out centuries ago under a distant, ever-cycling sun. The smooth interior surfaces were never meant to be silent. They were crafted to contain, and in containing liquid and grain, they also contained the gentle, necessary sounds of those acts. Now only the soft echo persists, a calming whisper carried on the slow, cool breath of the atmosphere, asking us to recognize the enduring history held within the stillness of the ceramic walls. 73. The pottery recovered from the vast, slow expanse of a river delta bears the unmistakable signature of long, tranquil submersion beneath the steady flow of water. These are not scars of violence or rapid abrasion, but the gentle, pervasive markings left by silt, the finest, softest grains of rock, carried endlessly downstream by the massive, quiet power of the river system. For centuries, perhaps millennia, the vessels rested within the dark, cool mud, covered by layers upon layers of finely pulverized earth material, the molecular dust of distant mountains worn down over geological epochs. Each passing current delivered a microscopic veneer of sediment, slowly coating the surface of the ceramic like the quiet formation of dew on a cool morning. The pervasive action of the water molecule, working tirelessly through its cycles of flow and rest, smoothed every edge and filled every slight indentation. Where the flow was strongest, the silt left behind a subtle, directional streaking, a faint alignment that mirrors the ancient, inevitable path of the river toward the sea. This record inscribed on the surface speaks of profound patience, the quiet duration of deep time where human civilization comes and goes, but the river persists, tracing the path set by gravity and the hydrological cycle. The ceramic body, fired to resist decay, became a silent witness to the Earth's slow respiratory process, absorbing the coolness and the deep color of the delta environment. To observe these silt marks is to measure time not in years, but in the countless cycles of seasonal flooding and recession, where the Earth's mantle is gently redistributed across the wide, fertile plains, providing a profound metaphor for the quiet, continuous reshaping of existence. 74. Before the vessel could endure the transformative violence of the kiln's heat, it had to undergo the crucial, gentle process of slow drying, a silent lesson in the virtue of patience. Clay, being a hygroscopic material, holds immense volumes of water locked within the microscopic spaces between its minute platelet structures. To rush this release of moisture is to court disaster, for rapid evaporation creates uneven stresses within the fragile matrix. The water vapor, seeking escape too quickly, would shatter the structure from within, resulting in cracks and eventual collapse. Therefore, the piece was rested quietly, often shrouded or placed in the cool, stable air of a protected space, allowing the water molecules to migrate slowly to the surface and dissipate into the surrounding atmosphere with deliberate, measured grace. This period of waiting aligns creation with the immense, slow cycles of the natural world. The quiet ripening of fruit, the subtle shift in seasonal light, the gradual movement of the continental plates. The potter learned that true strength is not achieved quickly, but through endurance and measured preparation. The time spent waiting for the water to leave was time spent respecting the material's intrinsic nature, honoring the slow dance between hydrogen and oxygen as they retreated from the silicates they once permeated. This deliberate slowing ensured that when the vessel finally met the roaring heat of the kiln, the transition would be smooth and uniform, preventing thermal shock. The piece's survival today is a testament to that enforced, deep stillness, reminding us that all great durability is built upon a foundation of quiet, unhurried time, and the molecular stability achieved through patient, careful observation of the drying rhythm. 75. The gentle, softly rolled curve that defines the uppermost edge of the vessel is not merely a structural necessity, but a subtle, intentional element of visual choreography. This smooth line serves as a continuous boundary, a quiet transition zone between the bustling outside world and the profound, silent emptiness of the interior space. The roll itself is designed to eliminate sharp edges that might abruptly arrest the eye. Instead, the curve acts like a gentle gravity well, steadily drawing attention inward, guiding the gaze over the soft lip and down into the deep, quiet darkness below. It is a visual invitation to contemplation, suggesting the infinity often contained within simplicity. The interior volume, the negative space defined by the wall, is the vessel's true purpose, a space dedicated to containment, privacy and stillness. The rolled rim creates a feeling of completeness and softness, preventing the energetic light from catching too harshly and allowing the shadow within to deepen naturally. This soft geometry mirrors many gentle curves found in nature, such as the crest of a slow, rolling wave just before it breaks, or the smooth, unhurried arc of the moon during its cycle across the night sky. By creating this smooth transition, the potter ensures that the viewer's engagement is tranquil and continuous, emphasizing the quiet profundity of the empty volume. The silence contained within is palpable, preserved by the secure, unwavering line of the rim. It is a peaceful demonstration of how form directs perception, steadily encouraging the mind to explore the tranquil, unadorned space held safe within the enduring ceramic shell. 76. The thousands upon thousands of Roman oil lamps, discovered in the quiet soil spanning the wide reaches of the ancient empire, testify not to individual artistic flourish, but to a profound, gentle capacity for standardization. These lamps, often molded from a two-part matrix, share an almost unsettling uniformity, demonstrating an early mastery of efficient, quiet mass production. The subtle consistency across time and immense geographical distance speaks volumes about the logistical infrastructure and the desire for predictable quality that underpinned the Roman world. From the misty reaches of Britannia to the arid heat of the Egyptian provinces, the gentle curve of the spout and the size of the oil reservoir remained consistent, assuring every legionary or civilian the same quiet, steady quality of light. This standardization was a soothing force, simplifying supply chains and ensuring that replacement wicks and oil burners functioned perfectly regardless of their point of origin. The molds, derived from master prototypes, quietly replicated the form thousands of times, freezing the design in time and space. Each lamp provided a consistent, soft glow, a measured output of photons that conquered the darkness of the long Roman nights. This quiet efficiency allowed the empire to function with seamless coordination, linking disparate cultures through shared material objects that were dependable and uniform. The steady, predictable flow of these necessities provided a stable rhythm to daily life, proving that consistency in manufacture could be a gentle, unifying anchor for a vast society, moving slowly through its long historical cycle. The uniformity itself is a silent, compelling narrative of engineering, and the quiet power of coordinated effort across great distances and long durations of peace. 77. The subtle, repeating texture found etched upon certain ceramic surfaces is the quiet, permanent record of a gentle compression, the soft meeting of stamp and wet clay. This delicate act required just the right measure of pressure. Too much would deform the piece, while too little would leave no lasting impression. The stamp, often carved with abstract, repeating geometric motifs or simplified natural forms, was carefully guided to the soft surface, pressed down with steady, quiet intention, and then carefully lifted away, leaving the design imprinted in the malleable earth material. These faint patterns demonstrate a primal appreciation for rhythm and visual repetition, echoing the natural patterns seen in the world. The cyclical arrangement of seeds in a sunflower head, the measured ripples in a calm pond, or the inevitable return of the lunar phases. The texture is a low-relief whisper, catching the light in slight, subtle ways, allowing the eye to trace the repeating journey of the pattern across the curved surface. This stamping technique captures a moment of human thought, transforming a concept, a circle, a spiral, a line, into a tactile, enduring presence. Though abstract, the design is deeply meaningful, locking a gentle visual melody onto the surface. The imprint is a final act before drying, a decorative punctuation mark applied while the clay still retained its yielding moisture. Now, centuries later, the texture remains, a quiet, repetitive comfort that invites the fingertips to trace the long-forgotten motion of the ancient artisan, reinforcing the continuity between past touch and present perception, grounded in the enduring material memory of the clay. 78. To hold the vessel aloft and allow the soft, immense energy of the sun to bathe its surface is to witness a quiet, gentle revelation. Where the walls are thinnest, a diffused, warm glow emanates, whispering the secrets of the interior structure. Ceramic material is generally opaque, resisting the passage of light, but a careful, slow thinning during the throwing process reduces the density enough to permit a subtle transmission of photons. This light, passing through the matrix of fired clay, is scattered and softened, transforming the intense solar beam into a diffused, amber haze that seems to emerge from the piece's own being. It is a moment of profound transparency, allowing us to perceive the internal geometry that is usually hidden by shadow and density. The glow reveals the subtle variations in wall thickness, the gentle undulations where the potter's hand applied slightly less pressure, or where the spinning centrifugal force drew the material outward with greater momentum. This soft radiance outlines the invisible architecture, showing the viewer that the vessel is not a monolithic form, but a carefully calibrated structure built layer by layer. The light highlights the silicates and minerals suspended within the clay body, turning the seemingly solid object into a temporary lantern, capturing and holding the warmth of the sun's distant nuclear furnace. It is a calming display of physics, where energy penetrates density, reminding us that even the most grounded and enduring material allows a slight passage of cosmic energy, offering a fleeting, gentle glimpse into the very heart of the constructed form, illuminated by the steady, unhurried light of day. 79. The cool, smooth base of a substantial vessel often carries the quiet, unassuming signature of its final separation from the rapid motion of the potter's wheel. These are the soft, concentric score marks, often forming a gentle spiral, left by the thin cutting wire used to detach the finished piece from the wheel head. While the rest of the vessel was formed and shaped under the influence of centrifugal force and the guiding pressure of the hands, the base remains the last point of contact, the crucial tether to the spinning axis of creation. As the wheel slowed its rapid rotation, the potter carefully introduced the cutting implement, a fine wire or cord, drawing it gently beneath the base. The wire moved through the soft, wet clay, shearing the material along the plane of the wheelhead, creating those distinct, slow spiral grooves that memorialize the act of separation. The smoothness of the base, achieved through careful tooling and the steady inertia of the spin, contrasts subtly with the slight texture of the cut marks. This is the precise moment when the object gained its independent existence, when it was released from the dizzying cycle of the rotation and allowed to stand still for the first time. The spiral score marks are a geological record of motion, a physical trace of the rotational physics that brought the vessel into being. They serve as a quiet, grounded metaphor for all things that must eventually separate from their source, carrying the history of their origin embedded quietly on their foundational surface, demonstrating the calm inevitability of completion and detachment. 80. In the silent, deep layers of the earth, ancient pottery fragments serve as the quiet, unwavering chronometer for dating the rise and slow decline of vast civilizations. These durable ceramic shards, almost impervious to the slow, consuming processes of decay, become the anchor points in the complex matrix of archaeological stratigraphy. As human settlements accumulated over millennia, new floors built upon old ones, debris settled, and the earth slowly covered the passing epochs. Because pottery styles evolved predictably, reflecting quiet shifts in decoration, manufacturing technique, and preferred form, archaeologists can observe the vertical progression of fragments through the layered soil, using them to assign precise dates to the surrounding context. A specific jar rim found consistently beneath a specific type of floor tile, or a certain glaze found always above a specific type of burial, allows scientists to measure the passage of cultural time with reassuring reliability. The ceramic itself, having survived the forces of dissolution that consume organic materials, offers a sturdy material timeline. It quietly demonstrates the relative age of everything around it. The soft collapse of wooden structures, the faint dispersal of organic fibers, the gradual corrosion of metal tools. The pottery remains, a steadfast, silent witness to the great, slow cycles of cultural flourishing and retreat across enormous regions. These fragments are the quiet, measurable constants in the flux of history, allowing us to gently map the movements of peoples, the diffusion of ideas, and the slow, inevitable rhythm of change, all anchored by the simple, enduring chemistry of fired clay resting quietly within the Earth's long memory. 81. The very act of shaping clay is inherently calming, requiring a gentle, focused attention upon the yielding, soft material, a slow surrender to the present moment. As the wheel begins its steady rotation, the potter must breathe in rhythm with the spin, finding the absolute center of the lump of earth, a physical manifestation of quiet stillness. The hands apply pressure that is neither too firm nor too hesitant, sensing the exact point where resistance turns into willing movement. This clay has been waiting for millennia, formed by the slow, gentle sedimentation of fine particles washed down by ancient rivers, compressed by the weight of time and history. Its plasticity is a gift of geological patience. When water is introduced, the tiny molecular structure of the clay slides effortlessly, lubricated for its transformation. The soft sucking sound of the clay against the palm is a quiet symphony of creation, an ancient sound that settles the mind. There is no urgency in this work, only the slow, deliberate pull upwards, a quiet battle against the downward drag of gravity, resulting in a gentle cylinder that seems to grow toward the light. If the hands are tense, the clay will wobble and collapse, returning instantly to its original formless mass. Thus, the material demands softness and acceptance from its handler. The focus required is singular and pure, allowing the world outside the radius of the turning wheel to dissolve into a gentle, non-existent hum, leaving only the slow, damp rotation and the soft shaping of the yielding, cool earth beneath the fingertips, a perfect, quiet meditation. The slow work continues, inch by inch, until the shape is found and accepted, resting quietly on the wheelhead, perfectly centered, entirely still. 82. Darkened interiors of jars suggest they spent lifetimes storing things away from light, preserving their contents in quiet shadows. Imagine the slow, protective enclosure, where light particles known as photons were perpetually denied entry, bouncing harmlessly off the opaque ceramic walls. Inside this quiet sanctuary, time slowed down, at least for the organic matter sheltered there. The molecules of stored grain or precious oil remained relatively undisturbed by the energetic interference of solar radiation. The darkness within is not merely an absence, but an active field of preservation, a velvet curtain drawn tightly against chemical degradation. Outside, the sun traced its powerful arc across the sky, warming the exterior surface, generating energy and movement in the world. But inside, there was a constant, cool stasis, a quiet pocket of enduring night. This deep interior shadow speaks of ancient wisdom, an early understanding of the necessity of protection from the relentless intensity of the day. The curvature of the jar amplifies this effect, bending any stray light ray into oblivion, ensuring that the stillness remains absolute. Even now, when the jar is empty and decades of dust settle gently on its base, the interior remains a monument to quiet preservation. It is a three-dimensional record of the absence of light, a small, enclosed universe where the laws of swift decay were temporarily suspended, allowing the hushed contents to rest undisturbed, waiting patiently through the slow passing of seasons and the steady drift of celestial bodies across the dark night sky. 83. The subtle ridges left by a smoothing tool are like gentle, silent contour lines tracing the geography of the vessel's form, mapping the tiny mountains and valleys of the ceramic surface. When the potter drew the tool across the wet clay, it was a moment of gentle sculpting, removing a fraction of a millimeter of material, leaving behind these quiet, horizontal striations. These lines are not mistakes, but rather the quiet record of the tool's passage, a history inscribed in the surface tension of the clay slurry. Observe them closely, and they behave like the lines on a topographical map, where each ridge represents a tiny increment of elevation, defining the curve and volume of the pot with soft precision. As the light falls slowly across the surface, these ridges catch the rays, creating a gentle pattern of illumination and shadow that shifts with the slightest movement of the eye. They are the quiet evidence of friction, the point where the ceramic structure yielded to the metal, wood, or polished bone of the smoothing instrument. Think of the immense, slow forces that create actual mountain ranges, the tectonic plates grinding silently against one another over deep geological time. These ridges are a miniature, immediate version of that same process, born in seconds rather than eons. They stabilize the volume, defining the swelling of the belly and the quiet constriction of the neck, reminding us that every surface, no matter how seemingly smooth, contains an intricate, silent landscape. These tiny, horizontal journeys tell the story of the vessel's growth, from a simple lump to a finalized form, a silent, restful map that guides the eye around the circumference of its history. 84. The quiet resignation of a vessel that has cracked and been discarded tells a small story of inevitable loss and decay, a gentle acceptance of the laws of entropy. The fracture itself is often not violent, but the result of slow, creeping stress, a molecular weakness amplified by a sudden thermal shock or a moment of misplaced pressure. It is the silent, physical conclusion of a long period of internal tension. Once the crack begins, the vessel yields its function, allowing its contents to return to the natural cycles of the earth. There is no drama in this failure, only the quiet turning away from utility toward dissolution. The materials, the silica, the alumina, the iron oxides, now begin their slow journey back to their constituent elements. Rain and moisture seep into the porous structure. Gentle frost pries the edges further apart, and the smooth ceramic surface begins to dull as microorganisms begin their patient, molecular work. This discarded fragment, resting quietly in the soil, joins the immense, silent history of everything that returns to the earth. It lies still, contrasting its permanence, solidified by fire, with the fluidity of the soil around it, where water constantly shifts and tiny roots push softly outward. The piece becomes a quiet shelter for small insects, a gentle marker of a human endeavor that has simply paused. It is a slow, gradual fading, mirroring the geological processes that break down mighty stone cliffs into fine, dispersible sand. The vessel's brief, useful life is over, and it settles into the long, slow rest of material existence, contributing its ancient elements back to the continuous, quiet cycle of the planet. 85. Simple burnishing creates a soft, gentle sheen, achieved by rubbing the surface with a smooth pebble before the intense firing takes place. This process is a testament to the power of gentle friction and patient labor. The potter holds the polished stone, perhaps a quiet river rock smoothed by centuries of flowing water, and passes it slowly, steadily, over the dry, greenware clay. With each soft stroke, the tiny, flaky clay particles, known as platelets, are gently pushed down and aligned parallel to the surface. This compression closes the microscopic pores and gaps in the structure, transforming the rough, dull surface into a dense, tightly packed layer. The surface is subtly transformed at the molecular level, becoming almost non-porous and highly reflective. When the vessel is eventually fired, this compressed layer vitrifies slightly, stabilizing the alignment. The resulting sheen is not the harsh, mirror-like gloss of a glass-based glaze, but a deep, velvety softness that seems to hold and diffuse the light rather than simply reflecting it. It is a quiet, inner glow achieved without any added material, solely through the patient manipulation of the clay itself. The pebble, having already undergone its own transformation by the ceaseless, quiet motion of the river, lends its polished stillness to the clay, It is an act of transference, where the geological history of the stone meets the human intent of the vessel, resulting in a surface that feels like liquid silk beneath the hand, offering a comforting, mild warmth and a subtle, persistent gleam that speaks of deep, restful preparation before the final, transforming heat. 86. Pottery found in arid climates retains a crisp, dry sound when touched, contrasting with the softer, dampened touch of humid finds. A subtle auditory difference rooted in the physics of sound transmission. When dry ceramic is gently tapped, the sound waves travel quickly through the rigid air-filled internal matrix of the pottery walls. Because the internal pores are free of moisture, the structure resonates freely, producing a clear, high-pitched, sustained tone, a crisp ping that speaks of dryness and stillness. The absence of water molecules allows the vibration to maintain its energy with minimal interference. In contrast, pottery retrieved from humid environments or damp soil absorbs moisture into those microscopic pores. The water molecules, being denser and viscoelastic, absorb sound energy, disrupting the transmission of the vibration. When tapped, the humid piece yields a duller, softer thud, a quiet sound that quickly dissipates. The presence of water acts as a gentle buffer, dampening the molecular dance that creates resonance. This subtle acoustic signature becomes a quiet clue to the vessel's post-creation history, mapping the climate cycles it has endured across centuries. The arid piece carries the sound of the desert air, dry, thin, and intensely still, bound within its fired walls, maintaining a structural integrity that supports pure, clear sound waves. The humid piece speaks of slow, quiet absorption, a soft yielding to the persistent presence of moisture, giving a brief, heavy sigh when touched, rather than a ringing announcement. Both sounds are quiet records of their resting places, offering a gentle narrative through the physics of vibration and molecular content. 87. The elegant lines of a classical vase seem to flow effortlessly upward, an ancient, quiet aspiration captured in solidified earth, defying the very gravity that grounded its creation. This feeling of ascent is achieved through deliberate curves, the subtle outward swelling of the belly providing visual stability, transitioning smoothly into the narrowing neck, drawing the eye toward the open lip. It is a quiet study in controlled tension, balancing the weight of the clay with the illusion of lightness. The potter's hands, moving slowly and precisely on the wheel, translated the fleeting energy of muscle into a permanent geometry, guiding the viscous material into a form that suggests growth. Observe the gentle flare of the foot, which roots the vessel firmly to the earth, contrasting with the long, slow sweep of the body that reaches patiently toward the upper atmosphere, much like a plant stem seeking the steady light. The curvature follows mathematical principles that govern natural growth and fluid dynamics, appearing organic and inevitable. This upward movement is not aggressive or urgent. Rather, it possesses the quiet dignity of a mountain peak or the slow rise of the tide, a persistent, gentle movement against the overwhelming downward pull of the planet. The fired clay holds this moment of aspiration fixed, a frozen dance. The classical vase stands as a quiet metaphor for enduring human hope, translating the chaotic energy of the spinning wheel and the heaviness of the earth into a timeless form that remains poised and ready, embodying quiet grace and an everlasting, gentle stretch toward the silent, boundless space above. 88. Each ancient vessel is a quiet, three-dimensional snapshot of the technology, aesthetics, and resourcefulness of its creation era. A silent history book composed of molecular bonds. The very composition of the clay speaks of the local geology, the iron content dictating the red hue, the presence of mica fragments hinting at nearby riverbeds or igneous rock formations. It quietly reveals the resourcefulness of the people who gathered these raw materials. The smoothness or roughness of the fabric tells us about the processing technology, how finely the clay was levigated, and whether tempering agents, such as sand or crushed shell, were introduced to manage thermal stress. The color and permanence of the pigments used for decoration are a chemical library, showcasing the mastery of mining and heating specific mineral compounds to achieve durable colors. The presence of a fine, dark slip hints at advanced knowledge of atmospheric control during the firing process, requiring specialized kilns capable of reducing oxygen supply, a quietly sophisticated technological feat. Even the thickness of the walls and the precision of the rim provide data points regarding the potter's wheel technology or the steady pace of hand-coiling methods. The vessel is thus a census of past knowledge, bound permanently within silicate chains. It stands quietly, requiring no voice to explain the economy that supported its creation, the trade routes that supplied its materials, or the steady, practiced hand that gave it form. It is a quiet, persistent artifact, holding the physical and intellectual history of its time in every millimeter of its sturdy, resting frame. 89. Many small cups were designed to rest easily in the hand, perfect for the quiet contemplation accompanying a warm morning drink, a subtle ergonomic design encouraging stillness. The gentle curve and slight indentations fit snugly into the soft hollow of the palm, creating a comfortable, symbiotic relationship between the object and the body. This intimate contact allows the warmth of the contents, perhaps slow-brewed herbs or a milky drink, to transfer gently and steadily into the skin, a quiet, reassuring presence on a cool morning. The heat radiates slowly, grounding the person in the immediate sensory reality of the present moment. The size ensures that the cup is held close, minimizing movement and spill potential, thereby encouraging a slower pace of consumption and thought. As the steam rises softly from the rim, carrying faint, comforting aromas, the cup becomes an anchor for quiet reflection. There is no need for large gestures or hurried action when holding this small, balanced form. It encourages the user to observe the slow interplay of light filtering through the vapor, to notice the subtle temperature change as the drink cools, and to feel the smooth, familiar weight in the hand. This quiet ritual of warmth and stillness, repeated across countless generations, transforms a simple, functional object into a tool for mental rest, where the gentle curve of the ceramic offers silent comfort and stability during the slow, contemplative transition from deep rest to the active world. 90. The occasional fingerprints of children found imprinted in the clay provide a tender, quiet link to the families who once lived near the hearth, stabilizing a moment of fleeting touch across vast spans of time. These tiny, faint whorls and ridges pressed softly into the still wet clay were accidental marks, a momentary curiosity, a playful brush, or a quiet attempt to help an adult with the construction. When the vessel was fired in the intensity of the kiln, the physical structure of the clay transformed, locking that tender pressure in place forever, a quiet fossilization of human contact. These small imprints act as a gentle reminder that the creation of the vessel occurred amidst the routine, messy reality of family life. Near the hearth where warmth and food were centralized, the small hand, now dust, left its unique biological signature, the quiet record of dermal ridges formed before birth, stabilized against the geological certainty of fired earth. It is a link that bypasses language and history, speaking directly through the physical reality of touch, a soft, quiet insistence that children played and lived and touched the objects of their home. To see a child's fingertip preserved is to witness a moment of profound, unassuming intimacy across millennia, connecting the steady rhythm of their breathing and the small pressure of their weight to our own present moment, bridging the immense temporal distance with the simple, quiet evidence of biological life near the safe, warm center of the ancient home. 91. The fine particles of the silent earth cling softly to the contours of the rediscovered vessel, a memory of its long, uninterrupted rest below the surface, where the light of the sun does not reach. This delicate sedimentation speaks volumes of stillness, of the patient waiting that defines millennia. Each grain of soil, smaller than the eye can truly define, has migrated slowly through the heavy matrix of the ground, drawn by gravity and the whisper of percolating water, until it found a final resting spot within the intricate, deliberate scoring of the ancient pattern. We observe this gentle residue, knowing it is composed of countless fragments of minerals, the slow decomposition of ancient root systems, and the dust carried globally by upper atmosphere winds before settling softly years ago. The pot itself, baked firm by the high heat of a long-ago fire, resists the decay that consumes organic things, yet it cannot entirely repel the embrace of the soil. The minuscule iron oxides and silicate structures have pressed against the ceramic, molding themselves to its shape, recording the duration of its concealment. This interaction is not a conflict, but a slow, quiet communion, where the vessel becomes temporarily integrated into the Earth's own geological strata. The clay of the pot returns to the clay of the ground, separated only by the silent intervention of human hands and fire, a brief moment in the vast cycle of deposition and erosion. The remaining soil, so quietly held within the texture, is the final physical record of this extended subterranean meditation, a silent testimony to the slow, steady procession of deep time passing above the vessel's sheltered resting place. The presence of this fine, almost invisible dust is perhaps the most profound indicator of the vessel's journey, marking the transition from the rapid world of the living to the vast, slow world of the geological, lending a deep, grounded silence to the object now resting in the light. 92. There is a deep, inherent comfort found in forms created purely for their purpose, where the gentle curve of the belly and the straightforward line of the rim serve only the quiet task of containment. The utility pot carries a silent lesson in efficiency, eschewing the complexities of distracting patterns for the simple, powerful elegance of necessity. Every ounce of clay, every moment of skilled labor, is dedicated solely to ensuring the vessel holds, supports, and preserves its contents with silent reliability. This focus on function introduces a soothing predictability to the object's design. The neck is shaped precisely to allow easy closure. The base is widened just enough to provide stable support against the constant pull of gravity, and the walls are thick enough to resist the small, steady pressures exerted by the stored materials within. There is an understated geometry at work, a restful balance achieved when unnecessary elements are eliminated, leaving behind only the essential, smooth surface and the quiet mass of the fired earth. This simplicity reflects a quiet wisdom, understanding that the most enduring forms are often those that resist the fleeting demands of style, settling instead into the timeless language of physical requirement. To look upon such an unadorned vessel is to witness a profound stillness, a refusal to engage in visual noise, offering instead a grounding presence that speaks of quiet labor and fundamental needs being met. The smooth, uninterrupted surface allows the eye to rest, encouraging a moment of gentle contemplation on the core relationship between material and utility, a silent acknowledgement that true value resides not in how brightly something shines, but in how reliably it serves the slow, persistent rhythms of daily existence, demanding nothing more than its own quiet, steady completion and structural integrity across the passing ages. 93. When the slow, deliberate rays of the afternoon sun reach down to touch the weathered surface of a pottery shard, a soft, almost imperceptible gleam awakens, a silent flash of light returning to the vastness of the sky. This faint reflection is a momentary echo, a small, quiet mirror held up to the ceaseless, ancient source of solar energy that governs the cycles of our world. The light, having traveled millions of miles across the vacuum of space at an astonishing, constant velocity, encounters the uneven, vitrified matrix of the fired clay, which has been altered forever by the immense heat of the kiln. Within the clay, microscopic variations in the mineral structure catch and redirect the photons, sending a small fraction of that energy back toward the observer. It is a fragile connection across immense stretches of time, as the sun that shines today is the same great furnace that warmed the hands of the potter who first shaped the clay. The shard, lying exposed to the elements, absorbs the heat slowly, but its glassy surface layer allows this fleeting reflection, a transient sparkle against the dull backdrop of the earth. As the sun drifts on its predictable path across the dome of the sky, the angle of incidence changes, and the light moves slowly across the fragment's surface, shifting the point of illumination. For a brief instant, the shard holds a tiny, condensed image of the bright, distant star, a subtle acknowledgement of the universal forces that govern all matter. These small, scattered pieces, resting quietly within the landscape, act as infinitesimal points of remembrance, silently holding and releasing the pure energy of the day, transforming the inert geology back into a momentary vision of pure, reflected light, a tranquil memory of the long-gone day when the vessel was whole and new. 94. The profound and comforting redness of certain earthenware vessels is born directly from the deep geological history of the landscape, specifically from the ubiquitous presence of iron oxide, the very essence of stable, natural rust found silently throughout the Earth's crust. This hematite pigment, incorporated naturally into the clay, transforms under the intense, controlled heat of the kiln, deepening its hue into a soothing spectrum of terracotta and brick. The change is a chemical affirmation, a quiet reaction where the iron atoms bond with the oxygen during the firing process, stabilizing the color permanently into the vessel's ceramic matrix. This inherent pigment lends a tangible warmth to the silent, sturdy forms, connecting the finished object directly to the foundational elements of the planet, which continue to cycle and transform beneath our feet. The red tone resonates with the deep core of the earth, symbolizing grounded permanence and quiet strength, anchoring the vessel to its origins. When one handles such a vessel, the visual warmth translates into a psychological sense of security, echoing the fundamental comfort derived from the color of dry soil and sun-baked rock that endure through all weather. The iron, patiently waiting within the local stratum for geological ages, becomes the medium through which the human effort is recorded, lending its ancient, stable chemistry to the fleeting existence of the crafted object. This color is not applied superficially. It is integral to the clay itself, a testament to the quiet truth that the most beautiful and enduring colors are often those discovered organically within the cycles of nature and geological formation, offering a visual anchor that is both deep and profoundly restful to the observant eye, reinforcing the vessel's quiet connection to its birthplace. 95. A small, curved fragment, resting innocently upon a surface, carries within its silent edge the entirety of the mathematical information needed to reconstruct the gentle sweep of the original, complete vessel. This tiny piece of fired clay acts as an enduring whisper of perfect geometry, where the inherent radius of the whole sphere or cylinder is still preserved in the delicate arc of the remaining section. The structure of the complete pot, though long dispersed, is encoded into the physics of this remaining curve. The degree of its bend tells us precisely how wide the vessel's belly once swelled, or how subtly the neck narrowed toward the rim. Our mind, drawn by the soothing consistency of circular forms, quietly and effortlessly completes the missing shape, extrapolating the invisible lines of the circumference outward from the available data, engaging in a restful exercise of visual completion. This mental act is deeply comforting, reflecting the universal human appreciation for closed, continuous forms found throughout nature, from the slow, elliptical orbit of planets to the simple sphere of a dewdrop clinging to a blade of grass. The fragment proves that even in disintegration, the order imposed by the potter's steady wheel and the universal laws of geometry cannot be fully erased. It is a quiet reminder that perfection, though transient, leaves behind permanent mathematical traces in its physical remnants. The small piece allows us to gently conjure the vessel in its original wholeness, restoring its quiet dignity, not through physical reconstruction, but through the seamless, internal visualization of its smooth, uninterrupted curve, a soothing geometry that transcends the broken reality of its material state, confirming that form and essence are inseparable, even across the vast quietness of scattered time and ruin. 96. The subtle, comforting weight and inherent coolness felt when handling a piece of finely wrought earthenware are the direct physical result of patiently applied human effort, achieving a remarkable level of material compression and density. Before firing, the clay molecules are closely aligned through the slow, steady pressure of shaping and compacting, forcing out the tiny pockets of air and excess water that would otherwise weaken the structure. This careful preparation leads to higher density, which is then locked into place permanently during the intense, transformative heat of the kiln, a chemical change known as sintering, where the clay particles bond tightly without melting fully into a liquid state. The resulting object holds a quiet permanence, its molecules packed closely together, yielding a resistance to force that belies the soft pliancy of the original mud. This density contributes directly to its cool touch, as the highly compacted material possesses a significant thermal mass, meaning it absorbs and holds temperature changes slowly and steadily, remaining consistently cool in the warmth of a resting room and resisting rapid fluctuations. The fine grain resists swift heat transfer, offering a silent, grounding coolness to the inquiring hand, a steady anchor in a world of quick thermal change. This physical property speaks to the deep satisfaction derived from efficient craftsmanship. The potter, by quietly understanding the nature of the material, maximizes its potential, transforming loose earth into a dense, solid, lasting form. The cool weight is a palpable reminder of the silent, steady energy invested, a durable stillness achieved through the harmonious collaboration between the patient strength of the human hand and the responsive, fundamental structure of the Earth's elements. 97. The unassuming elegance of a small pouring spout is a subtle masterpiece of applied physics, designed with silent precision to manage the delicate movement of liquid, ensuring a predictable and gentle stream. The potter, perhaps intuitively, understood the complex principles of fluid dynamics long before they were formally named, crafting the spout to encourage laminar flow, the smooth, quiet movement of liquid layers sliding past one another without chaotic mixing or turbulence. The gentle curve and controlled taper of the opening carefully reduce the surface tension that might otherwise cause the liquid to cling and dribble down the exterior, ensuring instead that it detaches cleanly and moves outward with serene purpose, guided only by the pull of gravity. This careful engineering minimizes splashing and the incorporation of turbulent air bubbles, resulting in an action that is both efficient and profoundly restful to watch and hear. The stream arcs downward in a continuous, quiet ribbon, demonstrating the soothing predictability of mass and trajectory. This simplicity avoids the functional anxiety of spills or erratic movements, offering instead a moment of quiet assurance during the act of serving. The understated design confirms that true elegance in utility is often achieved when form quietly supports the most natural movement of the physical elements involved. The spout is not designed for drama, but for reliable, flowing grace, turning the transfer of liquid from one space to another into a small, soothing ritual, where the water or oil moves with the quiet authority dictated by its own mass, and the careful guiding structure created by the patient hand of the ancient craftsman, achieving functional perfection. 98. The turning of the potter's wheel is an act of quiet, persistent consistency, leveraging the soothing power of rotational physics to achieve forms of perfect, serene circularity. The soft, pliant clay, centered precisely upon the axis of rotation, responds obediently to the constant angular momentum, yielding smoothly to the steady, guiding pressure of the potter's knowing hands. This controlled process naturally eliminates imperfection, creating rings and circumferences that mirror the pristine, continuous geometry found in celestial orbits and the cross-section of ancient tree trunks. There is a deep, primal satisfaction in witnessing this perfect symmetry emerge from the soft, yielding material, a reflection of the ancient human search for order and repeatable structure within a chaotic natural world. The resulting vessels embody a geometrical truth, creating a quiet visual rhythm that resonates with the slow, predictable cycles of the moon and the turning of the seasons. These perfectly rounded forms offer a restful counterpoint to the often jagged or unpredictable edges of the natural environment, providing a palpable sense of harmonious balance and equilibrium. The wheel insists on flawless repetition, translating the steady, quiet concentration of the artisan into the enduring language of pure mathematical shape. Every point along the rim stands at an equal, comforting distance from the silent central axis, confirming a structure of inherent equilibrium and stasis. This soothing geometry, consistently replicated across countless generations and cultures, speaks to a fundamental human appreciation for the circle, the ultimate expression of continuous flow, stillness within motion, and the quiet, enduring predictability of rotational forces acting upon pliant matter under steady, guiding pressure. 99. A close observation of the quiet interior of an ancient pot reveals a series of subtle, perfectly parallel striations, the ghost lines left by the smoothing tool that passed gently and systematically across the inner shell. These marks are the enduring signature of meticulous, unseen labor, a silent testimony to the potter's dedication to perfecting the hidden space of containment. The smoothing process was executed with patient, constant pressure, carefully removing the rougher textures and eliminating any small irregularities left by the initial throwing process, ensuring the structural integrity was uniform throughout the wall. This action was not merely aesthetic. It served the quiet, practical purpose of ensuring hygiene and functional efficiency, preventing stored granular materials from clinging unnecessarily to rough surfaces and promoting easier, more thorough cleaning, thus significantly improving the vessel's utility and longevity in daily use. The fine lines run horizontally, tracking the constant rotation of the wheel, a quiet record of the tool's continuous movement against the resisting clay molecules. Because these marks are hidden from immediate view, they possess an intimate quality, revealing a dedication to detail that extended beyond public display, a confirmation that the core structure of the vessel was treated with the same quiet reverence as its exterior, showing true care in craftsmanship. They speak of a moment of deep concentration, where the craftsman was entirely focused on the internal integrity, ensuring the vessel was smooth and ready to fulfill its long, quiet purpose of holding and protecting its contents, bearing the subtle, linear etchings of this final, internal refinement, a soft history etched into the silent inner surface. 100. Resting quietly and securely upon its elevated platform, the ancient vessel enters a state of profound stillness, transcending the rapid, fleeting movements of the living world that rush around it. It is a monument to material permanence, a silent observer whose existence is measured not in decades, but against the vast, slow clock of geological change and material endurance. The fired clay, having achieved crystalline stability through the transformative heat of the kiln, resists the swift pressures of biological decay, anchoring itself firmly in the present moment while carrying the passive memory of millennia. As the ephemeral hours turn into days, and days into cycles of seasons and years, the pot remains unmoved, its shadow slowly elongating and receding across the shelf surface, marking the steady, predictable progress of the Earth's measured rotation. It watches the momentary flashes of human activity, the swift comings and goings, the hurried conversations, the fleeting concerns, with the quiet neutrality of an object designed for endurance and stability. The vessel embodies a kind of serene patience, understanding that its own time scale operates at a profound remove from the brief span of its human caretakers and viewers. The light that falls upon its surface changes subtly with the shifting dust motes, and the distant movement of astronomical bodies. But the vessel itself holds its perfect form, offering a grounding stability against the backdrop of our swift, turbulent lives. In its quiet, unmoving presence, the ancient pottery gently reminds us that while our moments pass quickly, the underlying substance of the world, represented by the enduring fired earth, maintains its steady, calm vigil, a continuous, restful presence across the immense sweep of human history and passing time.